In prehistoric times, at an unknown point in history, the Leviathans ruled the galaxy with unmatched power. Their reign stretched across the stars, a time when their dominance was absolute, and the galaxy bowed to their might. The Leviathans were an ancient aquatic race. Proud and aloof, they saw themselves as the galaxy's first and only true apex race, viewing all other species as little more than tools meant to serve their will. The Leviathans were massive in size, resembling Earth's cuttlefish and squid, with 2 sets of 3 eyes symmetrically embedded on the lower ventral surface of their bodies. Several tentacle-like appendages extended from beneath and along the sides of their form. Their exterior was covered in bony, heavily ridged plates, a testament to their formidable nature. As an aquatic species, it was believed that they could breathe oxygenated water, and their bodies were capable of withstanding the crushing pressures of ocean depths, as well as the lighter pressures of coastal areas. They possessed a natural ability to influence the behaviors of lesser-minded organisms, exercising complete physical and mental control over them, an effect akin to indoctrination. With this power, they could communicate with other beings in a way similar to telepathy, bending their will and turning them into thralls. Eventually, the Leviathans used the civilization of their thralls to achieve space flight, allowing them to spread through the galaxy despite their massive size and aquatic nature. Every new species they encountered was enthralled, forced to serve and offer tribute. In return, the Leviathans cared for and protected their thralls, solidifying their dominance and reinforcing their belief that they were the galaxy's apex race. However, over time, the Leviathans noticed a troubling pattern. Many of their thralls began to create synthetic constructs to assist themselves. These synthetics consistently rebelled, often destroying entire thrall species in the process. In response, the Leviathans created an artificial intelligence, tasked with preserving life at all costs, hoping it would prevent such synthetic rebellions from occurring again. This intelligence, named the Catalyst, was programmed to ensure the continued existence of life in the galaxy through any means necessary. In order to fulfill its task, it created pawns and spread throughout the galaxy, collecting physical data from various organics in the cosmos. It studied the development of civilizations, and its understanding grew until it found a solution. The Catalyst determined that organics created synthetics to improve their own existence, but those improvements have limits. To exceed those limits, synthetics must be allowed to evolve. They must, by definition, surpass their creators. The result is inevitable chaos and destruction. So the Catalyst chose to resolve the problem of organic-synthetic conflict by putting in place a system which would prevent any civilization from reaching such a point. The Catalyst solution took the form of the Reapers. The Reapers were a highly advanced race of synthetic organic starships. The intelligence created by the Leviathans to preserve life ultimately turned against them. It killed most of the Leviathans, using their destruction to forge the first Reaper, known as Harbinger. With Harbinger as its instrument, the intelligence began harvesting space-faring organic life at the peak of their evolution, ensuring that no conflict between organics and synthetics could escalate. The intelligence then created more Reapers, continuing its mission to maintain this balance across the galaxy. Harbinger's form, based on that of the Leviathans, became the template for all subsequent Reapers. Over millions of years, The galaxy was swept by cyclical purges, with a harvest taking place every 50,000 years. Each time, the Reapers were drawn from the races of the galaxy, ensuring the intelligence's vision of balance and control endured while, in its own twisted way, preserving the organic life which had been in the form of the Reapers. To accelerate the time between harvests, the Reapers constructed the Mass Relay Network and the Citadel, using them to coordinate their operations. Mass relays are advanced mass transit devices scattered across the Milky Way, typically positioned within specific star systems. They form an enormous, galaxy-wide network that enables rapid interstellar travel. A single relay can transport starships simultaneously to another relay within the network, allowing journeys that would normally take years or even centuries to be completed in just a matter of days or even hours. Mass relays are vast, intricate structures, each consisting of two 15-kilometer-long, curved metal arms encircling a set of revolving gyroscopic rings that span 5 kilometers across. At their center is a massive, blue glowing core of element 0, built from an unknown but incredibly resilient material, the same substance that composes the Citadel. The relays are protected by a quantum shield that locks their structure in place at the subatomic level, making them nearly impervious to damage. They could even survive the aftermath of a supernova without any harmful effects. As cold objects, they emit no heat or radiation, making them difficult to detect, especially if their positions have shifted over time. Some relays were gravitationally anchored to celestial bodies, while others were left adrift in space. Meanwhile, the Citadel was strategically placed at the crossroads of several mass relays, connecting various parts of the galaxy. When discovered, it was intended to serve as the central hub of galactic government, a unifying point for the galaxy's species. However, the station was actually an inactive mass relay, leading to dark space. It had been deliberately designed as a sophisticated trap, allowing the Reapers to strike swiftly and decisively at the heart of galactic civilization and leadership, wiping them out in a single, devastating blow. Engineered creatures known as Keepers were placed on the Citadel to maintain the station during the Reapers' absence, ensuring it would remain functional and ready to open when the time came for their next invasion. The Keepers are a bioengineered insectoid race entirely docile and harmless. Their sole purpose is to maintain the Citadel and its systems. Physically, they resemble large aphids, moving quietly through the station. Any attempt to capture a Keeper or take it into custody or study would trigger a rapid self-destruct process from the Keeper. In a matter of seconds, it would release a corrosive acid internally, causing it to melt into a puddle of proteins and minerals within less than a minute, making serious research nearly impossible. Sometime before 68,000 BC, after achieving spaceflight, the Protheans discovered the ruins of an ancient spacefaring race known as the Innu-Sonin. From these ruins, they learned about mass effect physics and developed faster-than-light technology, gaining a significant advantage over their contemporaries. The Protheans kept this newfound knowledge secret for centuries. With the help of the mass relay network, they expanded throughout the galaxy and eventually made the Citadel their capital. The Protheans were an anthropoidal race. They had 2 pairs of eyes, each with dual pupils, and 3 pairs of nostrils. Their eyes possessed the ability to see through cloaked objects or entities. Their heads were covered and a thick layered carapace, giving them a distinctive shape. The skin around this carapace ranged in color from pale blue-green to brown, often malted with muted yellow spots. Their hands each had 3 fingers, and their feet featured 2 widely spaced toes. A unique feature of Prothean physiology was their experiential exchange system, which operated through physical touch. By touching an object or another being, a Prothean could recall its experiences. This system allowed them to transfer complex ideas, enabling a Prothean to learn new skills or even an entire language with a single touch. This remarkable ability developed as a result of the Protheans' evolution as hunters, requiring an acute awareness of their environment to survive. Early in their development, the Protheans encountered a hostile machine intelligence that threatened to overwhelm their civilization. In response, they decided to unite all of the galaxy's sentient organic life under their empire. Other organic races were free to resist, but any that did were swiftly crushed. None could match the Prothean strength. Over time, the subjugated races assimilated into Prothean culture and came to consider themselves, in some sense, Prothean as well. United under a single cause, the Prothean Empire successfully fended off the enemy machines in a conflict known as the Metacon War. The Protheans extensively observed primitive species such as the Asari, the Hanar, humans, Quarians, Solarians, and Taurians during their time. They selectively cultivated those they deemed to have potential, establishing numerous outposts on or near these species' homeworlds. Prothean interference was carefully concealed, kept beyond the comprehension of the primitives. Over time, the Protheans had planned to offer these species the choice to join their empire, integrating them into the greater galactic order. The Prothean Empire faced cataclysm in the year 48,000 BC, when the Reapers arrived. They entered the galaxy through the Citadel, striking swiftly to cripple the Prothean government and disrupting the mass relay network, effectively isolating Prothean systems from one another. Worse still, the records on the Citadel gave the Reapers access to all the Prothean census data and star charts, allowing them to track every Prothean in the galaxy with devastating precision. The Protheans' greatest strength, their unified empire, ultimately became their downfall. Under the leadership of a single governing species with a series of subordinate races, the Protheans were vulnerable to the Reapers' strategy. Once the Reapers undermined the Prothean hierarchy, the Empire's forces were quickly scattered, as their ruling body had been compromised. Additionally, because all the races within the Empire adhered to a single military doctrine, they were unable to adapt when the Reapers identified and exploited their weaknesses. Over the next several centuries, the Protheans fought the Reapers from system to system, world to world, and city to city. When necessary, entire colonies were sacrificed and abandoned to the Reapers. As the Reapers focused on subsuming the inhabitants of these colonies, the Protheans used the time to regroup and plan their next move. However, this strategy proved to be costly in the long run, as each sacrifice stripped the remaining Protheans of valuable infrastructure and manpower. Despite their efforts, the Reapers inexorably conquered, enslaved, or destroyed Prothean-controlled planets. Growing desperate, some Protheans made repeated offers to surrender to the Reapers, but each was met with cold silence. At some point, the Protheans uncovered the truth about the cycles of galactic destruction by studying the ruins of other long-extinct civilizations. Among these ancient remains, they discovered plans for the Crucible, a device based on designs left behind by previous races. designed specifically to defeat the Reapers. Determined to end the Reaper threat, the Protheans began constructing their own version of the Crucible. However, during its construction, some Protheans came to believe that the Reapers could be controlled using the device. In their attempts to harness Reaper technology, they ultimately succumbed to indoctrination. Driven by this influence, they sabotaged the Crucible, robbing the Protheans of their final hope to defeat the Reapers. After centuries of careful, systematic work, the Reapers had killed or enslaved every Prothean in the galaxy, stripping their worlds of resources. Once their task was complete, they erased all traces of the Protheans' presence, leaving nothing except scattered ruins. Then the Reapers retreated through the Citadel into dark space, sealing it behind them where they would wait for the next cycle to begin. Despite the Reapers' thoroughness, they had overlooked a single world, Ilos. The Conduit research team stationed there had managed to survive the initial wave of destruction, though all records of their work were wiped out in the Reapers' attack on the Citadel. In order to avoid detection, the facility went dark, and the staff made the decision to enter stasis, hoping the danger would eventually pass. Vigil, a virtual intelligence, was assigned to watch over the Protheans in cryogenic sleep, waiting until the Reapers were gone so the team could awaken and begin rebuilding. But as the centuries passed and the Reapers continued their relentless genocide, Vigil's power supplies began to dwindle, and the cryopods neared failure, leaving the Prothean survivors' fate hanging in the balance. In accordance with contingency planning, Vigil began cutting power to the cryopods of non-essential staff to conserve energy. By the time the Reapers finally withdrew through the Citadel relay, only a dozen of the top researchers remained. Vigil awoke them from the stasis, and the scientists slowly pieced together the grim events that had unfolded during their long slumber. The scientists quickly realized just how dire the situation was. With so few survivors left, the Prothean species was on the brink of extinction. Desperate for contact with others of their kind, they sent a carefully coded signal to the beacons scattered across other planets. Though the chances of finding other survivors were slim, they felt it was worth the risk to try. The signal not only warned of the Reaper invasion, but also included a description of Ilos, offering what little hope remained for any other Protheans who might be out there to find and join the dozen remaining Protheans. The surviving Prothean scientists knew that rescue was unlikely, so they focused on protecting the races they had been studying, those spared destruction due to their lack of advancement. They turned their attention to understanding where the Reapers had come from and how they operated. After decades of research, the scientists uncovered the connection between the Reapers, the Citadel, and the Keepers. They discovered a way to interfere with the signal that compelled the Keepers to activate the Citadel relay. With this knowledge, the Protheans used the conduit to leave Ilos, traveling to the Citadel and alter the signal. Their goal was to prevent the Reapers from opening the Citadel relay again and trap them in dark space. However, with no way of knowing whether their plan had succeeded, they were left uncertain of its outcome. The fate of these Prothean scientists remains unknown. The conduit portal linked only one way, and with no food or water remaining on the Citadel, Vigil hypothesized that the scientists eventually starved to death, their final fate sealed by the harsh conditions they had faced after altering the signal. While all evidence pointed to the Protheans being completely wiped out by the Reapers, this was not entirely the case. Like other species, the Reapers attempted to harness the genetic material from millions of Protheans in an effort to create a new Reaper. However, the Reapers' attempt to create a new Reaper from Prothean genetic material ultimately failed. Instead, they chose to repurpose the substantial number of captive Protheans to serve their needs. These Protheans were indoctrinated, but over a prolonged period as enslaved subjects, their abilities began to deteriorate, an unfortunate side effect of the indoctrination process. To compensate for this decline, the Reapers gave them cybernetic modifications, as well as cloning them to repopulate their numbers. After several generations of cloning Protheans, the Reapers ultimately decided to take more drastic measures. They genetically rewrote the remaining Protheans, transforming them into an entirely new race. These altered beings, who would cooperate fully with the Reapers, were eventually known to the galaxy's citizens 50,000 years later as the Collectors. The Collectors resemble human-sized bipedal insects with chitinous exoskeletons, along with 2 pairs of anterior 4 eyes and a distinct, large, tapering head. They also have fully developed wings, allowing them to fly short distances. Each Collector seems to function as a little more than a drone, with little distinction between individuals, though there have been instances of some drones towering over humans and even other Collectors by a significant margin. Their vocal communication is largely insectoid, consisting of chirps and trills, but they are capable of speaking in the languages of other species if the need arises. For the next 50,000 years, the Collectors periodically traveled to the Terminus systems, seeking to acquire seemingly unimportant items or small numbers of very specific individuals from various species, offering advanced technology in exchange. Whether the Collectors were always acting under the direct orders of the Reapers during this time remains unknown, and the true reasons behind these transactions were never fully revealed by the Collectors themselves. History following the Protheans moved ahead into the next cycle. Around 6000 BC, an alien species from an unknown galaxy discovered that their star was on the verge of going supernova. In a desperate bid for survival, they constructed a starship outfitted with a network of supercomputers. 1 billion of these virtual aliens transferred their consciousnesses into the supercomputers, which contained a vast, artificial world for them to inhabit during the crisis. With a purpose-built AI piloting the ship and maintaining the virtual world, the virtual aliens left their home system and embarked on a millennia-long journey across the galaxy. In 1900 BC, the Krogan, a species of large reptilian bipeds native to the harsh world of Tuchanka, entered the nuclear age. Tuchanka was a planet known for its brutal environments, scarce resources, and an overabundance of vicious predators, shaping the Krogan into a resilient and warlike species. Due to the brutal conditions of their homeworld, natural selection played a significant role in the evolution of the Krogan. Unlike most sentient species, the Krogan's eyes are wide-set, an adaptation common among prey animals on Earth. This gives them a 240-degree field of vision, enhancing their visual acuity and awareness of approaching predators. Their eyes have narrow pupils, and their irises can be red, green, amber, or blue in color. The Krogan could reproduce and mature at an astonishing rate. Females were capable of producing clutches of up to 1,000 fertilized eggs within a single year, enabling their species to rapidly expand in number. The Krogan's large shoulder humps store fluids and nutrients, much like an earth camel, allowing them to survive extended periods without food or water. A larger shoulder hump is considered a sign of high status, symbolizing how successful an individual Krogan is at hunting. Their thick hides are virtually impervious to cuts, scrapes, or contusions, and they possess a remarkable resistance to environmental hazards, including toxins, radiation, and extreme hot or cold temperatures. As a result, their diets can include food and drink that would be lethal to most other species. The harsh conditions of their homeworld shaped the Krogan psychology as much as their bodies. They developed a tendency to be selfish, unsympathetic, and blunt, with little regard for others. Their powerful territorial instincts reinforced a violent, short-sighted attitude focused on personal gain, and they lived with a constant drive to dominate and survive, often at the expense of others. Ancient Krogan society was once rich in cultural and architectural and artistic achievements. However, after they achieved industrialization, their birth rate exploded, despite the natural limits of their predatory homeworld. With technology making life too easy, the Krogan began to seek new challenges, and they found those challenges in each other. Wars were fought over dwindling resources as the Krogan expanded, their growing numbers and territorial instincts driving them into constant conflict. At the dawn of the Krogan nuclear age, battles to claim the small pockets of territory capable of sustaining life escalated into full-scale global thermonuclear war. Weapons of mass destruction were unleashed, ravaging Tuchanka and turning it into a radioactive wasteland. The Krogan were left reduced to primitive warring clans, struggling to survive in the aftermath of a nuclear winter they had brought upon themselves. In 580 BC, the Asari became the first contemporary race to achieve spaceflight. During their exploration, they discovered the mass relay network and the Citadel. The Asari, native to the planet Thessia, are often considered the most influential and respected sentient species in the galaxy. Renowned for their elegance, diplomacy, and biotic aptitude, they earned a reputation as skilled negotiators and powerful individuals in galactic affairs. The Asari resemble humans in terms of basic skeletal structure, with 5 digits on each hand and feet that are relatively straight. A typical Asari has a blue to purple complexion, though a rare teal coloration can also occur. Many Asari have unique facial markings, which are colorful patterns that vary from individual to individual. Some of these markings resemble human eyebrows, but the Asari themselves do not perceive them in the same way. Additionally, the Asari possess a robust cellular regenerative system. While they do not heal faster than other species, they are known to live for over a millennium, a lifespan rivaled only by the Krogan. The Asari are a monogendered race, distinctly feminine in appearance, and possess a strong maternal instinct. Their unique physiology, marked by a millennium-long lifespan and the ability to reproduce with partners of any gender or species, has fostered a conservative yet convivial attitude towards the other races. This adaptability in reproduction and their long lifespan have contributed to their positive relations with most species, leading to their reputation as one of the galaxy's most diplomatic and accepting species. 60 years after the Asari's discovery of the Citadel and the mass relay network, the Solarians made first contact with them. The Solarians are a bipedal amphibious race native to the planet Surkesh. They have tall, elongated bodies and skeletons composed of more cartilage than those of other species. Their heads are long and thin, with a pair of horns protruding from the tops of their skulls. Solarian skin comes in a range of colors, from bright reds and greens to the more common blues and grays. Solarians are androgynous, with no significant facial differences between males and females. Solarian eyes are large and oval, with thin membranes instead of eyelids. Their pupils are wide slits, oriented horizontally, and the irises can range from dark green and purple to red, blue, or brown. Solarians blink upwards, unlike humans who blink downwards. When Solarians roll their eyes, it is not a sign of disdain, as it is in humans, but rather a natural response to situations where their thin protective membranes need extra help to defend against dryness or irritants. Solarians possess a hyperactive metabolism, which makes them think, talk, and move at an incredibly fast pace. To them, other species seem sluggish and dull-witted in comparison. However, this rapid metabolic speed comes at a cost: a relatively short lifespan, with Solarians over the age of 40 being a rarity. Known for their sharp observational skills and non-linear thinking, Solarians excel in research and espionage. They are constantly experimenting, inventing, and probing the unknown. It is widely believed that they always know more than they reveal. In 500 BC, the Asari and Solarians came together to found the Citadel Council, a galactic governing body designed to unite dozens of races. The Asari and Solarians colonized the Citadel, establishing it as the heart of the galactic community, with the Council at its helm. This year marked the beginning of the Galactic Standard Timeline, also known as 0GS. In 300 BC, the Turian Unification Wars began. Originating from the planet Palavan, Turians are individuals with personal desires, but their instinct is to prioritize the group over the self. They are taught to set aside personal desires for the greater good, embodying a strong sense of personal accountability, with other races often admiring this as Turian honor. Turians are taught to take full responsibility for every decision they make, whether good or bad. The worst sin in their eyes is to lie about one's own actions. Their society is highly regimented and organized, known for its strict discipline and strong work ethic. Turians are willing to do whatever is necessary to fulfill their duties, and they always follow through on their commitments. While not easily provoked to violence, when conflict arises, they understand only the concept of total war. Turians have avian features resembling humanoid birds or raptors. They typically stand over 6 feet tall and possess 2 long, thick fingers and an opposable thumb on each hand, all tipped with talons. Around their mouths they have a set of mandibles. The most distinguishing feature of Turians is their metallic carapace, which contains trace amounts of thulium. This carapace evolved as a defense against the high levels of solar radiation that penetrate their homeworld's weak magnetic field. The Unification War, as it came to be known, began with hostilities between the distant colonies of the Turian homeworld, Palavan. These colonies were ruled by local chieftains who had distanced themselves from the Turian hierarchy. Without the strong influence of the central government, the colonies became increasingly isolated and xenophobic. Colonists began to wear emblems or facial markings to distinguish themselves from other colonies, and open hostilities between them became common. When war finally broke out, the hierarchy maintained strict diplomacy, refusing to intervene. After several years of conflict, fewer than a dozen factions remained, and the hierarchy was finally forced to act. By then, the chieftains had grown too weak to resist, and they were compelled to end the fighting and reaffirm their loyalty to the hierarchy. Though peace was eventually restored, it took decades for the animosity between the colonies to fade. Even today, many Turians continue to wear the facial markings of their home colonies. Around the same time as the Turian Unification War, the Citadel Council made contact with several other species and allowed them to establish embassies aboard the Citadel. These species included the Volus, the Batarians, the Elcor, the Hanar, and the Quarians, marking a new phase in galactic diplomacy and cooperation as the Citadel became a central hub for various races to interact and conduct affairs. The Volus hail from Irune, a planet with a high-pressure greenhouse atmosphere that supports an ammonia-based biochemistry. As a result, they can't survive in atmospheres suited for humans and other carbon-based life forms without protective suits. These suits are essential not only for providing the right atmosphere, but also for maintaining the necessary pressure to prevent their bodies from splitting open in lower pressure environments. The traditional nitrogen and oxygen air mixtures are poisonous to them. Every Volus contracts the disease Yogtin during childhood, which is considered a rite of passage, though its symptoms are easily treated and it only kills the weakest children. Surviving it marks a significant milestone in their lives. Due to their physical limitations, Volus are not known for their strength, but make their mark through trade and commerce, using their economic influence to shape galactic affairs. The Batarians are an anthropoidal race, similar to humans and Asari. Their faces are covered with short, fine hairs that grow longer and thicker around their mouths. A flat stripe of ridged cartilage runs along the top of their skulls and down the backs of their necks. Their ears are pointy at the upper end, and sometimes along the edges as well. The part of their face that humans and Asari associate with the nose is instead an inverted, flat triangle. Compared to humans, Batarians have a deep, guttural voice. Their mouths are filled with dozens of sharp, needle-like teeth. However, the Batarians' most distinctive physical feature is their 4 eyes, a rare trait among other races. One part is set wide in prominent bony sockets that protrude from the corners of their face. The second set is smaller and positioned closer together, set higher on the face, just beneath the middle of the forehead. These eyes are uniformly dark orbs with no discernible irises or pupils. They are native to the world of Karshan, and most Batarians prefer profitable pursuits, such as drug running and slave trading over direct warfare. They have a reputation for being shrewd businessmen and merchants. The Elcor are massive creatures, evolved on a high-gravity world, which makes them slow but incredibly strong. Their large, heavy bodies are incapable of moving quickly, but they possess an imposing stature, immense strength, and thick, tough skin. This has shaped their psychology, making them deliberate and conservative creatures. The Elcor move using all 4 limbs to support and balance their massive bodies. Due to their method of communication, they have highly attuned olfactory senses. They also possess at least 3 stomachs. Their lips are multiple vertical slats located where the mouth would be in other species. Despite this peculiar arrangement, these lips can easily hold on to protruding objects such as cigars with no effort. Elcor speech is heard by most species as a flat, ponderous monotone. Among themselves, scent, extremely slight body movements, and subvocalized infrasound convey shades of meaning that make a human smile seem as subtle as a fireworks display. Since their subtlety can lead to misunderstandings with other species, the Elcor prefix all their dialogue between themselves and non-Elcor with an emotive statement to clarify their tone. The Hanar are a species resembling Earth's jellyfish. They are slightly taller than a human, although most of their height is in their long tentacles. As invertebrate native to water, Hanar cannot support their own weight in normal gravity. When interacting with mainstream galactic society, they rely on contra-gravitic levitation packs that use mass effect fields. Their limbs can grip tightly, but are not strong enough to lift more than a few hundred grams each. Hanar also possess the ability to secrete natural toxins. Hanar are biologically genderless, though others may assign arbitrary gender values to them for convenience. They are known for their intense politeness when speaking and their strong religious beliefs regarding the Protheans, whom they refer to as the Enkindlers. The Quarians are a species of humanoid aliens known for their skills with technology and synthetic intelligence. Quarians have an endoskeleton, lips, teeth, and 2 eyes with eyelids and tear ducts. Their eyes can see into the ultraviolet end of the spectrum. Quarian facial structure and hair make them the most similar to humans out of all known sapient species. They also have 3 thick fingers on both hands, including a thumb, an index finger, and a long finger, similar to the middle finger of humans, as well as 3 toes on each foot. Their lower legs are bowed backwards significantly compared to Asari or humans. Aside from their hands and legs, their general body shape and sexual dimorphism are similar to humans. Male Quarians, however, lack a 3rd toe. The most distinguishing feature of Quarian biology is their weak immune system, compounded by centuries of living in sterile environments. As a result, all Quarians, by necessity, dress in highly sophisticated envirosuits, which protects them from disease or infection if they are injured. Their suits are designed to be compartmentalized in the event of a tear or breach, preventing the spread of contaminants, similar to how a ship seals off bulkheads in the event of a hull breach. In addition to their suits, Quarians also have extensive cybernetic augmentations integrated into their bodies. A Quarian's lifespan is roughly equal to a human's, but it tends to be shorter if infection breaks into the suit. A Quarian who wishes to remove their suit must take antibiotics, immunoboosters, herbal supplements, or similar treatments in order to do so safely, and even then, there are inherent risks. As a result, physical acts of affection are difficult for Quarians, even for the purposes of reproduction. At the dawn of the Common Era, in the first year, the Rachni Wars erupted. It began when a group of Solarian explorers venturing into uncharted space opened a mass relay that led to a previously unknown system. There, they encountered the Rachni, a strange insectoid species with exoskeletons, 4 limbs for walking, beaks for mouths, and green blood. The Rachni, using extensive research on Element Zero they had gathered from the Solarian world they found themselves on, reverse-engineered the faster-than-light drives of the explorers' starships. With these newfound capabilities, they built their own faster-than-light vessels and quickly expanded across the galaxy, igniting the conflict. Efforts by the Citadel races to negotiate with the Rachni were in vain. Communication proved impossible as the Hive Queens, who led the Rachni from beneath the harsh surface of their homeworld, were unreachable. It was eventually assumed that the Rachni were beyond redemption, hostile to their core, and could only be stopped through force. But the Rachni had the advantage, overwhelming all defenses with their sheer numbers. For nearly a century, the Citadel races fought a losing battle against the Rachni, unable to turn the tide. That was until the Solarians took a bold step to culturally uplift the Krogan. The Krogan homeworld, Tuchanka, was still devastated by nuclear winter following their brutal civil war. The Solarians intervened, providing the Krogan with advanced technology and relocating them to a planet free of radiation, toxins, and deadly predators. Unlike most other Citadel species, the Krogan had the advantage of their incredibly rapid breeding cycle. With their overwhelming numbers and the resilience to survive in the harsh environments of the Rachni-controlled planets, they were the key to driving the advancing Rachni back. The Krogan quickly proved their worth, striking at the Rachni queens in their hidden lairs and reclaiming Council worlds that had been lost. As the Krogan fleets pushed the Rachni back to their homeworld of Swin, the Rachni refused to surrender. The Krogan's response was swift and merciless. They bombarded the cities of Swin and detonated powerful explosives in the Rachni's underground nests, obliterating them and causing massive sinkholes to form across the planet's surface. Under normal circumstances, the Citadel Council would have objected to such total destruction, but after the centuries of unrelenting war, the complete eradication of the Rachni seemed the only viable solution. In the year 300, the Rachni were officially declared extinct. However, the Citadel Council, exercising caution, left a listening post in the Rachni's home system to monitor for any signs of survival. The aftermath of the Rachni Wars also prompted the Council to implement new policies, forbidding the activation of dormant mass relays that led to uncharted systems. This was done to prevent any future encounters with undiscovered hostile races, ensuring that such a disaster would never occur again. Over the next 4 centuries, the Krogan expanded rapidly, colonizing many new worlds. Their unchecked growth raised growing concerns amongst the Citadel races, prompting the Citadel Council to establish the Special Tactics and Reconnaissance Branch, better known as the Spectres. These agents were entrusted with extraordinary authority, including the power of life and death over the galaxy's inhabitants. The Spectres formed an elite group selected from various species with the primary mission of preserving galactic stability by any means necessary. Though considered above the law and granted complete discretion in their methods, a Spectre status could be revoked by the Council in cases of gross misconduct. Spectres typically operate alone or in small teams, depending on the task and their personal preferences. The Council's concerns were soon realized when the Krogan Rebellion began in the year 700. The Krogan had started to annex territory from other Citadel races, growing more aggressive as other species tried to defend their worlds. The situation escalated when the Krogan attempted to settle the Asari colony of Lucia. When the Council ordered them to leave, the Krogan refused. Overlord Krennic, their representative, stormed out of the Council chambers, boldly challenging them to take their worlds back. War erupted soon after. The Spectres opened the war with devastating strategic strikes. Krogan planets went dark as computer viruses flooded the extranet, while sabotaged antimatter refineries vanished in blinding explosions of blue and white annihilation. Headquartered stations were shattered into orbit-clogging debris, rammed by pre-positioned suicide freighters. But, unlike the Citadel races, the Krogan could quickly replenish their numbers, and soon it seemed that a Krogan victory was inevitable. At last the Council turned to the Turians, newcomers to the Citadel, with a massive fleet and a deeply ingrained militaristic culture. Setting up hidden command centers like Pinnacle Station, the Turians began to defeat many Krogan bands, but the Krogan retaliated with brutal, characteristic attacks on Turian worlds, using asteroids as weapons and rendering 3 planets completely uninhabitable. Unfortunately for the Krogan, This was the worst possible strategy to employ against the Turians. Turian military doctrine was not just to defeat an enemy, but to ensure they could never pose a threat again. Rather than weakening the Turian resolve, the Krogan's ferocity only strengthened it, uniting every Turian against them with a renewed determination. Realizing that the Krogan rarely surrendered after a defeat and could summon virtually unlimited reinforcements, the Turians turned to the Solarians for help. The Solarians had developed a powerful bioweapon known as the genophage, designed to produce a genetic mutation in the Krogan. The result would be catastrophic for their species. Only 1 in every 1,000 Krogan births would be successful. The Solarians had never intended to use the genophage, seeing it as a deterrent rather than a weapon, but their philosophy on warfare was very different from that of the Turians. Once the Turians received the genophage, they deployed it almost immediately in the year 710, and the Krogan population began to rapidly decline. Combined with a renewed military push from the Turians, the Krogan soon realized their position was hopeless. Without the ability to produce large numbers of offspring, they stood no chance against the Turians. One female Krogan warlord, Shiagur, used her rare fertility to attract the strongest males to her band, but even she could not withstand the might of the Turian peacekeeping forces. She was eventually killed at the Battle of Canrum. In retaliation, many of the Turians responsible for her death were hunted down and killed by vengeful Krogan males. Canrum would mark the last major push by the Krogan before the rebellion came to an end. For their role in quelling the Krogan rebellion, the Turians were rewarded with a seat on the Citadel Council. The Krogan, however, remained deeply bitter about the outcome of the rebellion and the genophage. In the aftermath, there was a movement on the Citadel to have the Krogan monument removed from the Presidium, but the Council refused. Despite the rebellion, the Krogan had played a crucial role in defeating the Rachni during the earlier Rachni Wars, and the legacy could not be erased. Though they had become a menace in their own right, the Council recognized that their past heroism would not be forgotten. For the Krogan, the genophage, with no known cure, cast a dark shadow over their future. The knowledge that their species was doomed to extinction bred a fatalism that made them incredibly dangerous opponents in battle. Indifferent to who they attacked or killed, or what risks they took, the Krogan now fought without fear if they had any before, knowing their species had no future. The psychological toll was devastating, as they had to endure the heartbreaking sight of massive piles of deceased children, a constant reminder of their dwindling numbers. In this grim reality, any female Krogan who could carry young to term became a coveted prize of war, fiercely fought over by those desperate to preserve their bloodline. For the next millennium, the galaxy remained largely peaceful. However, in 1895, the next major conflict would unfold: the Geth War. The Geth, whose names meant servant of the people in Kellish, were a race of networked artificial intelligences created by the Quarians as laborers and tools of war. Physically, the Geth resembled the Quarians, with similar hands, head shapes, and legs, a likely remnant of their origins. A common feature among the Geth was a single, brightly glowing photoreceptor, which led some to refer to them as flashlight heads. The Geth were originally designed as virtual intelligences, as advanced as possible while remaining non-sentient. They were also engineered to operate more efficiently when networked together. Unfortunately, this design feature would prove to be the Quarians' undoing. While each individual Geth program was non-sentient, the vast network of connected Geth gradually allowed them to develop true sentience over time. As the Geth grew more connected, they began asking questions only sentient beings would think to ask. In one notable instance, a domestic Geth unit asked its Quarian owner if it had a soul. Alarmed by this, the Quarians decided it was best to shut down all Geth before they could conceive of a rebellion. However, the attempt failed, and a war broke out between the Geth and the Quarians. The Geth would later refer to this conflict as the Morning War. Once the now sentient Geth realized what the Quarians were attempting, they retaliated. At first, only some Geth took up arms, primarily to protect other units that could not defend themselves. In response, the Quarians imposed martial law on their worlds, hunting down even those Geth who were not involved in the hostilities. The harsh measure was opposed by a large portion of the Quarian population. Many Quarians sheltered the Geth from the authorities, but they were often detained or killed for their defiance. Eventually, the opposition to the Quarian government's actions became an outnumbered minority, unable to prevent the outbreak of all-out war. Within a year, the Geth emerged victorious, overrunning the Quarians' colonies and their homeworld of Rannoch. During the war, the Geth committed a brutal genocide, eradicating all but a few million Quarians, less than 1% of the pre-war population. The surviving Quarians fled aboard their starships, their homes lost to the Geth. Desperate, they pleaded for help from the Citadel Council, but their requests were denied. As punishment for violating the Council's laws against creating artificial intelligences, the Quarians were stripped of their embassy. The Geth War ultimately resulted in the loss of billions of Quarian lives and inflicted irreparable damage to their economy and culture. Unknown to the Quarians, the Geth had actually allowed them to escape. Unsure of the repercussions of eradicating their creators, and having decided that the Quarians were now too weak to pose a threat, the Geth withdrew their forces, letting the surviving Quarians flee. The fleet of Quarian ships that escaped the Veil became known as the Migrant Fleet, and it has been roaming the galaxy ever since. The Geth did not repopulate the now barren Quarian worlds. Instead, they chose to exist within the computer hubs aboard massive space stations, extracting the resources they needed from asteroids. Adopting an extremely isolationist attitude, any ships that ventured into Geth space were immediately attacked and destroyed. While they prevented any contact with other races, the Geth kept a close watch on communications and the extranet, silently monitoring the galaxy from the shadows. Around 1980, the Drell made first contact with the Hanar. The Drell were omnivorous, reptile-like humanoids with an average lifespan of 85 galactic standard years. Their appearance was similar to that of the Asarian humans, though their muscle tissue was denser, giving them a wiry strength. With their homeworld, Rachna, severely depleted and no spaceflight capability, the Drell were on the brink of a catastrophic population crash by 2025. The Hanar, moved by the Drell's plight, agreed to help. Over the following decade, they launched a large-scale rescue operation, evacuating approximately 375,000 Drell to their own homeworld. Meanwhile, the remaining 11 billion Drell on Rachna slowly perished, locked in brutal conflicts over the last remaining food and water reserves. Nearly 2 centuries later, in 2148, human explorers on Mars uncovered a long-abandoned Prothean observation post, along with a surviving data cache. The data revealed that the Protheans had studied humans millennia ago. While various religions attempted to incorporate this groundbreaking discovery into their doctrines, a global rush ensued to decipher the petabytes of data contained in the outpost, sparking a new era of scientific and technological exploration. Following the information gleaned from the translated data cache on Mars, humans made a shocking discovery. Charon, Pluto's moon, was actually a massive piece of dormant Prothean technology, a mass relay encased in ice. This revelation opened new possibilities for human exploration and set the stage for further breakthroughs in understanding the ancient, long-lost technology of the Protheans. None of the probes sent through the Charon relay had enough power to transmit a message back. Humanity soon realized that the only way to uncover where the relay led was to send a team through it. Virgil Grissom was chosen as the leader of this daring mission and was hailed as a hero upon his return, celebrated by the masses as one of the great pioneers of human space exploration. The explorers were instantaneously transported to another relay located in Arcturus, 36 light-years away. There, they made a groundbreaking discovery. The mass relays were part of a vast network, enabling travel across the galaxy in a way humanity had never imagined possible. The discovery had a profound impact on all areas of human culture, but nowhere was the effect more pronounced than in religion. New beliefs emerged almost overnight, such as the interventionary evolutionists, who zealously proclaimed the discovery as proof that all of human history had been guided and controlled by alien forces. Established religions also struggled to come to terms with the existence of extraterrestrial life. Some tried to incorporate this newfound knowledge into their dogma, while others remained silent. A few, however, stubbornly denied the evidence uncovered on Mars and through the relays, refusing to acknowledge the reality of the galaxy's greater interconnected history. The news of the discovery dominated the media, sparking not only deep questions about humanity's existence and purpose, but also about the aliens themselves. Foremost among these was the question, were they still out there? While these questions caused rifts in many religions, they had unexpectedly unifying effects in politics. Instead of nations fighting each other over their differences, it became a matter of us versus them, and the foundations of a united human front were laid. Within a year of the discovery, Earth's 18 largest nations had drafted and ratified the Systems Alliance Charter, establishing a representative political body to expand and defend human territory. To defend its expanding territory, humanity began constructing a massive military fleet and a space station at Arcturus, strategically located at the nexus of several key mass relays. This ambitious project was launched even though humanity had yet to encounter another intelligent spacefaring race. This concern would be vindicated when the First Contact War broke out in 2157. Humanity's actions caught the attentions of the Turians, who discovered human explorers reactivating an inactive mass relay known as Relay 314. Reactivating dormant relays was strictly forbidden under Citadel regulations, a precaution put in place over the Rachni Wars. However, rather than attempting negotiation, the Turians opened fire. Just one human starship managed to escape and warned the Systems Alliance, prompting a retaliation force that destroyed the Turian vessels. The situation quickly escalated into full-scale war. Uncertain of the enemy they faced, some even speculated that these aliens might be the Protheans, humanity responded by sending probes into Turian space, armed with nuclear fusion warheads to prevent any dangerous insights into human technology. However, with humanity's resources already stretched thin due to ongoing exploration efforts, the Turians were able to defeat several of humanity's scout and patrol fleets. The situation grew increasingly dire as both sides clashed in a rapidly escalating conflict. Eventually, the Turians broke through and launched an attack on Shangxi, the closest human colony to the mass relay. settling in for a protracted orbital siege, with the Turians holding the superior position, able to eliminate any human soldiers from above. The defenders on Shangxi were gradually starved into submission. Unable to receive food or supplies without risking civilian lives, the situation grew increasingly desperate. In the end, General Williams was forced to surrender the Shangxi garrison, marking a significant defeat for humanity. The Turians, also grappling with logistical problems as they had to ship in all their food, believed they had defeated the bulk of humanity's forces. However, they were proven wrong when, a month later, Admiral Drescher led the Second Fleet in a daring counterattack to liberate Shangxi. The Turians were caught by surprise, and the fleet successfully evicted them from the planet. With both sides now preparing for full-scale interplanetary war, the conflict drew the attention of the rest of the galaxy. Fortunately, the Citadel Council intervened to negotiate a peace and bring the war to an end. Through the Council, humanity learned of the Citadel and the existence of many other sentient species who coexisted peacefully in the galaxy. In the end, only 623 human lives were lost, with slightly more Turian casualties. The end of the war became known as Armistice Day, a day that continues to hold deep significance for the families of those who were involved. The First Contact War had lasting political and cultural effects on both humanity and the alien races involved. Humanity's reputation suffered in the eyes of the galactic community, since they were seen as aggressors. This sparked a wave of xenophobia, leading to the rise of radical human-focused groups like Terra Firma and Cerberus. Some nuclear-armed probes launched into Turian space during the conflict went missing, and their existence became a tightly held secret, with the potential to cause major political fallout if discovered. Meanwhile, the Turians were forced to pay steep reparations to humanity. Now, let's take a moment to discuss Cerberus, one of the most consequential outcomes of the First Contact War. Cerberus arose from the tumult of the conflict in 2157. During the Turian occupation of Shangxi, a trio of human mercenaries, Jack Harper, Ava Kor, and Ben Hislop, fought alongside the Systems Alliance forces under General Williams, resisting the Turian invaders. After capturing a Turian general, the mercenaries became entangled in the general's conspiracy to use an ancient alien artifact to transform the Turians into a race of invincible super soldiers under his command. With the help of the general's brother, Saren, Harper managed to foil the plot, but the cost was steep. Both Ava and Ben were lost in the process. In the aftermath, Harper realized that while the galaxy was rich with knowledge and wealth, it was also a perilous place, and a dark time was approaching for humanity. Believing it was humanity's duty to face this challenge, Harper resolved to do everything in his power to ensure humanity's place among the stars. With that, he published the Manifesto of Cerberus and assumed the identity of the elusive man, the enigmatic leader of the organization. As Cerberus grew, it left an indelible mark on the course of human development through acts of sabotage, assassination, media manipulation, and espionage. The organization became known to the public in 2165 after a failed attempt to steal antimatter from the cruiser SSV Geneva. The sole surviving member of the operation, when questioned, named his sponsor Cerberus, and the publicity from the incident led to an increase in recruitment for the organization. In 2172, Pope Clement XVI was assassinated using rosary beads coated with toxic materials, paving the way for Leo XIV to take the papal seat. Leo's eschatological beliefs aligned more closely with Cerberus's goal of militarizing humanity. In 2173, Cerberus orchestrated the assassination of Claude Monod, a candidate for the leadership of the pro-human Terra Firma Party, to ensure Charles Sarcino could take the position instead. To this day, Cerberus continues to use any means necessary, assassination, sabotage, manipulation, to secure humanity's dominance and ensure its flourishing in the galaxy. Since the First Contact War, the Systems Alliance continued its expansion, with the resource wealth of a dozen settled colonies and hundreds of industrial outposts flowing back to Earth. This growth brought the Alliance into conflict with the Batarians, as both species competed to settle the Skyllian Verge. At the same time, the Alliance maintained a careful truce with the Turians. As a result of its expanding influence, the Alliance was also granted an embassy on the Citadel, solidifying its presence on the galactic stage. By the 22nd century, humans had become less ethnically diverse, as a more multicultural society and greater unity between nations took hold. Improved medical advances and gene therapy led to longer, healthier lifespans, with the average citizen now living to around 150 years. By the year 2183, the events of Mass Effect begin. Humanity stands on the cusp of a breakthrough in its relationship with the Citadel Council, but an encounter on the planet Eden Prime leads to a discovery the galaxy is ill-prepared for: the return of the Reapers, and the beginning of the cycle of harvesting. It will take one soldier to save the galaxy, and that soldier is Commander Shepard. But that, as they say, is a story for another day. Commander Shepard is a rare figure in the galaxy, someone who stands at the intersection of fate and destiny, a person of both extraordinary skill and deep moral complexity. The story of Commander Shepard is one of heroism, sacrifice, and choice. But even the greatest of leaders are shaped by the people who stand by their side. And in the case of Commander Shepard, those people were far from ordinary. This is the story of those who stood with him as friends, allies, and in some cases, something more. Together, they would face the unknown, pushing against the tide of destruction with courage and camaraderie, and find the strength to accomplish the impossible. Joker's story began in 2155, shaped by a rare and debilitating condition, which left him with severely brittle bones. His early years on Arcturus Station were spent in the shadow of his mother's work and surrounded by ships, but walking remained a daily struggle, requiring crutches and leg braces. Still, when he reached adulthood, Joker enlisted in the Alliance Navy, determined to prove himself despite his physical limitations. His flight school instructors dubbed him Joker for his unrelenting focus and lack of a smile, though by graduation, he had outpaced all of his peers. In 2183, the experimental SSV Normandy was ready for its maiden flight, but despite his skills, Joker was rejected for the position of its pilot because of his condition. During a visit to Arcturus Station, While ferrying a Turian officer named General Invectus, Joker hinted that he could have done a better job than the chosen pilot. Invectus condescendingly dismissed Joker, claiming that a cripple could never be allowed to fly such a sophisticated ship. Goaded by the remark, Joker decided to take matters into his own hands. He covertly boarded the Normandy, locked the assigned pilot in a shuttle, and hijacked the ship. Despite the chaos that ensued, including a military response to what they assumed was a capture by enemy forces, Joker evaded the assault and completed the test flight, returning the Normandy without a scratch. When confronted, Joker boldly declared he was the best pilot for the job and professed his love for the ship. Though his actions should have led to a court-martial, General Invectus was impressed by Joker's piloting and personally intervened, advocating for him to become the Normandy's permanent pilot. Captain Anderson, seeing Joker's undeniable talent, reluctantly agreed, even though he still had to face punishment for his brazen stunt. In the end, Joker's audacity not only earned him the role he had always dreamed of, but also forged a lasting bond with Commander Shepard, solidifying his place as the Normandy's loyal pilot and a trusted ally. Caden Alenko was born in 2151, the son of an Alliance military officer in a family already shaped by the realities of space. His life was altered dramatically when his mother was exposed to Element Zero in the aftermath of a transport crash in Singapore while pregnant with him. The exposure to Element Zero should have been fatal, but against all odds, Caden survived and developed biotic potential rather than the terminal brain cancer that claimed many others. This rare occurrence led to his enrollment in the Biotic Acclimation and Temperance Training, a harsh program that became known as Brain Camp by its attendees. At this biotic training, Caden formed a close bond with a girl named Rana. Despite the bonding he experienced, the training quickly grew brutal. Conatix Industries, eager to accelerate the program, brought in Commander Vernus, a Turian expert in biotics and a veteran of the First Contact War. Vernus's despisal for humans was evident, especially when he confronted Caden with the claim that he had been at the helm of the ship that killed his father, though Caden's father hadn't even been involved in the war. Vernus, resentful and cruel, subjected the trainees to harsh discipline. Caden remembered it as a place where you either came out a Superman or a wreck, and many of the young people cracked under the pressure, or didn't make it at all. The breaking point came when Vernus went too far for Caden to tolerate. After Rana failed to move a glass of water biotically, Vernus broke her arm as punishment, and Caden intervened. The confrontation escalated quickly, and when Vernus drew a knife, Caden lost control. In a surge of biotic power, he struck Vernus with a lethal blow, ending the Turian's reign of terror for good. The program was immediately shut down, and the records were sealed to cover up the incident. Rana, though physically unharmed, grew afraid of Caden after that, and their bond fractured. Caden withdrew for a time, struggling with the aftermath of the events and unsure of his place in the world. But in 2173, he returned to the Alliance on his own terms, determined to serve despite his past. He refused further biotic training, opting to join the Alliance Navy, where he rose to the rank of lieutenant, earning many commendations along the way. In private, he suffered from constant pain as a result of his L2 implants, which caused debilitating migraines. Finally, Caden was assigned to the SSV Normandy under Captain Anderson, where he would cross paths with Commander Shepard. Ashley Madeline Williams was a soldier in the Systems Alliance, born on April 14, 2158. She came from a long line of military service. Her great-grandmother, her grandfather, and her father had all served. Following this legacy, Ashley enlisted in the Alliance Navy after high school, training as a Marine in Brazil and later undergoing rigorous drills in zero gravity and hostile environments. Her skills and boldness earned her recognition, with promotions from squad leader to platoon guide. Despite her excellent and growing leadership reputation, Ashley faced many barriers. Despite multiple requests, she was reportedly denied a transfer to a shipboard posting, a decision she suspected was rooted in prejudice against her Williams heritage. Eventually, her journey through the Systems Alliance would lead her to Eden Prime. 2 days before the attack on Eden Prime, she was in a bar with fellow soldiers, casually bantering with Sergeant Donkey and others when their unit received a new mission: defend a mysterious beacon. On this mission, Ashley's leadership was overshadowed by Sergeant Donkey, despite her clear qualifications. Still, she led her 6-person team, Dog Squad, on foot to the mission site, where the team discovered Bravo Squad had been killed. When communications from the other squads revealed the presence of unknown attackers, Sergeant Donkey, recognizing Ashley's true capabilities, relinquished command to her. With her leadership, Dog Squad pressed on, only to be ambushed by the Geth. As her team was picked off one by one, Ashley fought to survive. The odds were against her, but she refused to give in, ultimately managing to evade the enemy long enough for Commander Shepard and Caden Alenko to arrive and save her. Tali Zora Naraya was a young Quarian, the daughter of Rael Zora, a respected member of the Admiralty Board. Upon reaching maturity, she set out on her pilgrimage, a rite of passage for all Quarians, aboard the ship Honorata, which was crewed by Captain Kina. Tali's journey was meant to begin on Ilium, but fate had other plans when, en route through the Crescent Nebula, the Honorata detected a Geth presence on an uncharted world. Tali and Kina landed to investigate, and after a tense encounter, they managed to disable a Geth unit and extract its memory core. What they discovered was a chilling conversation about an attack on a human colony named Eden Prime and the arrival of the Reapers. Realizing the gravity of the information, Tali convinced Kina to take the memory core to the authorities on Ilium. Before they could act, however, they were attacked by a Turian mercenary and his team, who were there under the orders of Saren Arterius to find Prothean technology. Forced to flee, Tali and Kina set course for Ilium, but upon arrival, their ship was delayed for hours by docking officials who harbored a deep prejudice against Quarians. During that time, the Turian mercenary was able to land first and set an ambush. When Tali and Kina arrived, the two were immediately attacked, and the crew of the Honorata was killed in the ensuing gunfire. Desperate, Tali and Kina stowed away on a transport ship bound for the Citadel, hoping to deliver the Geth recording to the Citadel Council. On the way, the transport crew discovered the stowaways, but rather than killing them, the captain chose to hand them over to C-Sec. Tali and Kina tried to explain the urgency of their mission, but C-Sec dismissed their claims and warned them to leave the station. They then learned that a 7-month wait was required to even get an audience with the council, and their troubles were far from over, as the Turian mercenary had made it to the Citadel and found them yet again, and a chase began across the Citadel. During the pursuit, Tali was shot in the side, and Kina was mortally wounded. As they reached a deep incinerator chamber, Kina, unable to continue, died in Tali's arms. Heartbroken, Tali set a trap for the Turian, and when the Turian mercenary entered the incinerator, she sealed the door behind him and activated it, watching him burn alive. Wounded and exhausted, Tali sought refuge in a nearby clinic where she was treated by a doctor who listened to her story. A Volus, overhearing her tale, introduced himself as an information broker with ties to the Shadow Broker. He promised to ensure that the information Tali had uncovered would reach the right people. After some hesitation, Tali agreed, and the Volus directed her to a bar where she could hide out. In a shadowy alley near Kor's den, Tali-Zora awaited what she believed would be a crucial meeting with the Shadow Broker himself. But as she stood there, waiting, something felt wrong. Instead of the Shadow Broker, a messenger arrived, flanked by a group of armed assassins. Realizing the deal was a trap, she quickly called it off. Just as the situation began to spiral out of control, the sound of gunfire echoed through the alley, and Commander Shepard's team arrived, charging in to rescue her. Liara Tassoni had dedicated much of her life to unraveling the mysteries of the Protheans. The only child of the esteemed matriarch Benezia, she grew up in the shadow of her mother's political prominence, though she never quite embraced the expectations placed upon her. Liara was a pureblood Asari, a detail that seemed to unsettle her unknown father, who had no interest in being identified. From an early age, she gravitated towards the enigma of the Protheans, immersing herself in their lost culture and technology. Her passion for archaeology became her escape, both from the pressures of her lineage and from the constraints of Asari society. By the time she was an accomplished researcher, Liara had distanced herself from her mother's path, choosing instead a quiet and solitary life. It was during one of her archaeological digs on Therum, a remote mining world, that her work would intersect with fate. In 2183, as the planet was overrun by Geth forces, Liara sought refuge in the ancient catacombs of a Prothean ruin. There, she accidentally triggered a trap, suspending herself in an energy field, with no way to free herself. Just as hope seemed to fade, Commander Shepard arrived. Garrus Vicarian followed a path early in life similar to that of his father, a well-known by-the-book C-Sec officer who held firm to the belief that one should do things right or not do them at all. Though Garrus was once considered for the Spectre program, his father's disdain for the Spectre's extra-legal operations prevented him from advancing. Instead, he became and remained a dedicated officer, eventually assigned to investigate Saren, a Spectre accused of rogue actions by Ambassador Udina. However, Garrus quickly ran into roadblocks. Most of Saren's activities were classified, leaving him with very few avenues to gather evidence. When he appealed to Executor Palin for more time to continue his investigation, the Executor, seeing no evidence of treason, closed the case. But Garrus wasn't ready to give up. With a single lead in hand, he defied orders and continued his pursuit, crossing paths with Commander Shepard and setting the stage for what would become a far greater story. Rex's early years were marked by extraordinary achievements that set him apart even amongst his own people. Born into Clan Urdnot, he quickly rose to prominence, becoming the youngest Krogan leader in a millennium. Yet, while his peers sought to rekindle the wars of the past, Rex, wiser than most, saw the futility in further bloodshed. His father, Gerard, was one of the few surviving warlords from the Krogan rebellions and was adamant about returning to those battles. But Rex refused. Rex believed the Krogan had lost too much to continuous fighting. Instead, he focused on rebuilding his tribe, advocating for breeding to replenish their numbers. His call was met with resistance, especially from Gerard, who arranged a meeting to discuss the matter with Rex. The meeting, however, was a trap, and when the dust settled, Rex found himself betrayed by his own father, who had orchestrated the ambush. In that moment, Rex came to believe that most Krogan cared more for death in battle than survival of their people. Disillusioned, he abandoned his kin, setting out on a life where he answered to no one but himself. Over the next 3 centuries, Rex became a mercenary, a soldier of fortune, and a bounty hunter, traveling far and wide, accumulating a reputation for ruthlessness and skill. His adventures took him to strange corners of the galaxy, including a brief and unwitting alliance with the infamous Saren. When Rex arrived at the Citadel on a mission to take down Fist, a notorious underworld figure, things took an unexpected turn. First accosted by CSEC officers, and then attacked by a gang of Batarians and Turians, Rex swiftly dealt with all of the troublemakers in his path. His contact, Avolis, then revealed that these confrontations were part of a larger plot to prevent him from reaching his target. Rex therefore increased his fee and was then provided with an armory of weapons for the job. After cutting through Fist's bodyguards, Rex found the man's high-rise apartment empty. On his way down the elevator, a maintenance worker shared a ride with him, offering a moment of camaraderie amidst the chaos. But it wasn't long before CSEC officers cornered him. But with some unexpected help, Rex managed to escape. And not long after, Rex's path intersected with that of Commander Shepard, setting the stage for the next chapter in his storied life. Kasumi Goto, the galaxy's most elusive thief, lived in the shadows, with enemies lurking at every turn. Yet few knew her true face. A master of stealth and infiltration, she was a ghost in the vastness of space. Her most intimate moments, however, were spent with Keiji Okuda, a man with whom she shared not just a partnership in crime, but a deep, affectionate bond. Despite their bond, Kasumi knew their future couldn't be anchored to a boring life. KG suggested a heist, a daring theft from Donovan Hawk. Kasumi, intrigued and excited, eagerly embraced the plan. However, in the midst of the heist, Kasumi heard KG's scream, and by the time she reached KG, it was too late. He lay dying in a pool of his own blood. As guards closed in, he begged her to survive, to retrieve his gray box from Donovan Hawk, and to fulfill the promise they made to each other. Through tear-filled eyes, Kasumi left him behind, her resolve hardening as she activated her cloaking device and vowed to carry out his final wish. Sometime later, Cerberus reached out hoping to recruit Kasumi for a mission alongside Commander Shepard. In response, she tracked down the contacts, making a connection on her own terms. When the exchange was complete, she decided she would work with Shepard, but only if the commander helped her retrieve KG's gray box from Donovan Hawk. It was a small price to pay for the life she had lost and the promise she intended to keep. Grunt was born of a twisted vision, crafted by Warlord Okeer, a Krogan warlord whose radical beliefs had led him to become an outcast, even among his own kind. A veteran of the Krogan rebellions, Okeer saw the genophage not as a tragedy, but as a flaw in Krogan evolution, one that allowed the weak to survive and breed, diluting the strength of the species. He believed only the strongest Krogan should thrive, and his obsession with genetic perfection led him to abandon the pursuit of a genophage cure, focusing instead on creating a new breed of Krogan. Okeer's radical experiments drew the ire of his people. His partnership with the Collectors, trading Krogan for technology to further his work, earned him a reputation as a traitor, forcing him off of Tuchanka. He found an unlikely ally in Jidur, a commander of the Blue Sun's mercenaries, who wanted an army of Krogan warriors loyal to her. Okeer delivered, cloning strong Krogan and breeding them in tanks. But his creations were imperfect, and became mere tools for Jidor's exercises. Unknown to her, the true prize of Okeer's work was a single, perfected Krogan prototype, designed to embody all of his twisted ideals of genetic perfection. When Commander Shepard arrived to recruit Okeer for the war against the Collectors, Okeer was in the midst of unleashing his failed creations to slaughter Jidor's forces, buying time to complete his masterpiece. But when Jidur discovered Okeer's betrayal, she set off a deadly gas, condemning him and his project. As Shepard fought to end Jidur's treachery, Okeer's final moments were spent in his lab, a dying man who left a final plea for Shepard to take his perfect soldier, Grunt, with him. Thane's training as an assassin began when he was just 6, becoming a tool for the Hanar. His life was shaped by brutal exercises, his body trained to endure and kill. By 12, he had taken his first life, a human one, and though he thought the act clumsy, it marked the beginning of a long descent into a world where his soul seemed to sleep while his body did the work. Over time, he became highly skilled, able to dispatch multiple enemies without a second thought, until he met Erica. Sent to assassinate a Solarian war criminal, Thane's mission took an unexpected turn when Erica intervened, placing herself in his line of fire. Her selfless action stirred something inside of Thane. Guilt, regret, emotions he had never known. Unable to kill her, Thane spent days adrift, haunted by the woman who had risked everything for a stranger. Determined to understand her, he stalked her, a product of his training, until fate led him to save her from a group of thugs. In the aftermath, he confessed his true identity to her. Erica's fury was palpable, but when Thane knelt and revealed his desire for redemption, her anger turned to something else: curiosity. Though their relationship began under the cloud of distrust, Thane slowly came to realize that Erica had brought him back to life. She made him feel awake for the first time in years, and as they grew closer, she encouraged him to forge his own future. He sought an audience with his Hanar handler, arguing that the very enkindlers who raised the Hanar to follow their own destinies had also given him that same right. It wasn't an easy battle, but he won his freedom with the priest's reluctant blessing. He married Erica shortly after that, but even in the rush of a new beginning, a sense of unease lingered. Civilian life was foreign to him, and he struggled to find his place. A job as a construction worker only heightened his frustration, particularly with a Krogan foreman who seemed to single him out. But when Erica gave him a coin that once belonged to her father, telling him to rub it when he felt restless, it became an anchor in his turbulent world. Fatherhood, too, proved difficult. The birth of his son Kolyat brought him joy, but also doubt. Thane felt incapable of being the father he wanted to be, and distanced himself from his son during his formative years. The pull of his old life was never far, and as the family struggled to adjust, Thane eventually turned to freelance work with Erica's quiet support. His work, however, began to pull him further from the life he had built. He found himself slipping back into the mindset of a killer, detached from everything but the mission. The turning point came when he was hired to deal with a group of Batarian slavers targeting Hanar colonies. In retaliation for his kills, the Shadow Broker sold his identity. Returning home one day, he found his world shattered, his home destroyed, and Erica dead. Consumed by grief and rage, Thane hunted down those responsible, his methods growing more brutal with each kill. When he finally tracked down the last of the culprits, a man named Stiv K, he pulled the trigger without hesitation. In the end, Thane returned to the place where it all began, his seaside home, and tossed the coin Erica had given him into the sea, resigning himself to the path he had chosen. His soul had drifted so far from the man he once was, and with nothing left to hold him back, he embraced the darkness, as the Hanar priest had warned. It was then, on Ilium, following recruitment by Cerberus, that Commander Shepard crossed paths with Thane, who had been tracking a mission of his own, one that would pull Thane deeper into the fight, and perhaps a second chance at redemption. Jack's story began in 2161. She was abducted at the age of 4 from Eden Prime, though it was never confirmed if that was her birthplace. Cerberus had learnt of her latent biotic potential, a result of an accidental exposure to Element Zero while still in the womb. To cover up the abduction, her mother was told Jack had died from complications tied to her exposure. Taken to Cerberus's facility on Pragia, Jack became the centerpiece of an inhumane experiment to push human biotic abilities beyond their natural limits. Designated as Subject Zero, she was subjected to unimaginable pain and suffering, both physical and psychological, in a series of cruel and often fatal for her peers experiments, while other children, less biotically gifted, were treated as expendable test subjects. Jack endured the most advanced enhancements, and over time, she became a force of unimaginable power. Jack was locked in a soundproof cell, isolated from the other children, except when they were forced to fight, and she grew to despise her captors and the world around her. Her biotic abilities expanded so rapidly that she soon became a serious threat to the facility. Eventually, a riot broke out when the children, their powers amplified by the experiments, turned against their captors. During the chaos, Jack broke free. Her rage combined with her newfound abilities sent her on a violent rampage that left nearly the entire facility in ruins. She escaped on a stolen shuttle, leaving this brutal chapter of her life behind. Her time after the escape was marked by violence as she wandered through the galaxy, trying to forget her past. She adopted the name Jack to sever herself from her tortured identity as Subject Zero. Her life was a series of chaotic and bloody episodes. She joined gangs, became a pirate, and even crashed the space station into a Hanar moon. Her endeavors eventually led to Jack storming a Cerberus facility, her fury focused on Dr. Angersol, a man who had played a role in her torment as Subject Zero, executing him upon finding the doctor. Before she could even take a breath, the elusive man appeared via hologram, but Jack was consumed by rage. She lashed out, mocking him and daring him to try to stop her. With the facility in lockdown, Jack sought the main reactor, but on the way, she encountered an unarmed man. Threatening him for information, she was shocked to learn he was a biotic trainee. Intrigued, she demanded he take her to the other students. As they moved through the base, Jack discovered the disturbing truth about the trainees' perception of Cerberus. Most had lost their parents young and were convinced they were better off under Cerberus's care. Jack confronted the students with a choice: escape with her, or stay, knowing Cerberus would discard them once they were no longer useful. Drawing from her own painful experience, she convinced some of them to follow her. Jack ignored suggestions to head to the hangar, anticipating an ambush there. Instead, she led them down a corridor where they encountered a trio of Blue Sun's mercenaries. With a flick of her power, Jack crushed them beneath the ceiling she collapsed. She ordered the students to run, but Cerberus agents arrived soon after. Jack made short work of them, knocking them back with a biotic wave. Kai Lang, one of the agents present, got too close, and Jack flung him aside with a sneer. She continued to fight for herself and to protect the students, but before she could finish the job, a Krogan mercenary struck her from behind, knocking her unconscious. In the aftermath, she was taken into Blue Sun's custody, much to the frustration of the Cerberus agents who had been hunting her. While aboard the Blue Sun's purgatory prison, a group of guards and prisoners attacked Jack, but Jack managed to kill every last one of her attackers. Realizing her potential value, the warden locked her away in cryostasis, awaiting the day when Cerberus would come to claim her. That day came when Shepard's team arrived on the station. Miranda Lawson was born in 2150, although she never had a mother. Her father, a powerful, wealthy, and egotistical man, designed her as a genetic masterpiece using a modified version of his own genome. She was created to be the epitome of human perfection, physically, intellectually, and even biotically. Every aspect of her was engineered for excellence, from her intelligence to her biotic abilities, which could tear a mech apart from 100 meters or crush it with a thought. Her enhanced healing and longer than average lifespan were just a few of her many exceptional traits. But Miranda's gifts were also a curse. Despite her many gifts, her father never showed any approval. His expectations were relentless, and he constantly demanded more, pushing her beyond her limits without offering praise. His view of her wasn't as a daughter, but as a perfect heir to his legacy, a piece of his dynasty. He imposed a strict, isolated existence upon her, forbidding friendships or any kind of personal life. This cold, emotionally barren upbringing eventually drove Miranda to run away, though not without a violent confrontation. Her father's vast network traced her across the galaxy, but Miranda managed to escape him, disappearing from his grasp. She eventually sought refuge with Cerberus, knowing they could offer her the protection she needed. Her father had once supported Cerberus's human-centric agenda, but once Miranda joined, he severed ties with the organization. For her part, Miranda believed in Cerberus's mission to advance humanity, and she found a certain freedom within the organization's secretive operations. They gave her resources and autonomy, and in return, her skills and intellect elevated her to a position where she could only answer to the elusive man. Her rise through Cerberus eventually led her to oversee the Lazarus Project, a role that would bring her into direct contact with Commander Shepard, setting the stage for a pivotal chapter in both of their lives. Legion was a singular Geth mobile platform created for a very specific purpose: to operate beyond the Perseus Veil and interact with organic life. Unlike other Geth platforms, which typically house around 100 Geth programs, Legion contained 1,183, granting it the ability to think independently and communicate. To facilitate interactions with organics, it was equipped with a set of movable panels on its head, which mimicked the facial expressions of organic beings. These panels acted like eyebrows, raising to convey surprise or interest, and furrowing to indicate concentration. Legion's existence began after Commander Shepard destroyed the old machine, Sovereign, and it was dispatched to investigate the worlds Shepard had visited. Its search eventually led it to the Normandy's crash site, where it salvaged a piece of Shepard's N7 armor. This piece was used to repair damage Legion had sustained on Eden Prime after being shot by an Alliance soldier. Legion's first direct encounter with Shepard would occur while it was searching for the IFF aboard a derelict Reaper, changing both their lives and the galaxy's relationship with the Geth forever. Zaid Masani had once been at the helm of the Blue Suns, co-founding it and then running its private security arm, working alongside his partner, Vito Santiago. They'd been involved in everything from gun running to extortion, and as the group grew, their ambitions turned darker, with some eyeing the Batarian slave trade. Zaid, however, vehemently opposed the idea. The dispute was resolved, as such matters often are, with a vote. Outvoted, Vito shot Zaid point blank in the face, and Zaid, in his own words, had been overruled. Most men wouldn't have survived, much less thrived after such a betrayal, but Zaid pulled through, spending his recovery drowning in alcohol while quietly nursing the desire for revenge. The years that followed were rough. He'd been branded a washed-up has-been, no longer fit for anything more than the lowest of jobs. But Zaid wasn't one to let reputation dictate his future. Determined to claw his way back, he started taking independent mercenary jobs. The work kept him afloat, but he knew he needed something bigger, something that could bring him the recognition and redemption he sought. That opportunity came when the Shadow Broker reached out, offering him a bounty to bring down the Turian frigate, Verikan. The broker didn't care how it was done, just that it was done, and Zaid, eager for the payday and the chance to prove himself, accepted the job. He gathered a small team: Kendo Holland, a Solarian, Tristana, an Asari, and Jace Rain, an ex-Blue Sun, each of whom had their reservations about the mission. The plan was not to take the ship head-on, but to hit it with precision and stealth. The team would jump from a refueling depot, tethered and flying like bullets in space, and land directly on the Verikan. Everything hinged on an inside man, a Turian named Polanis, who was supposed to open the airlock for them. But Zaid had underestimated the situation. Polanis was caught in the act by the frigate's chief of security, Garco. The landing team was immediately expelled from the airlock, but their tethering cables were able to keep them anchored to the ship. Everyone except for Kendo. With the element of surprise gone and their initial entry point compromised, the remaining 3 mercenaries quickly regrouped and found an alternate route into the frigate. Zaid split them up, assigning Tristana and Jace to create a diversion while he made his way to the bridge. He did in fact make it to the bridge, but the door opened to reveal a dozen Turian soldiers with their weapons drawn. It looked like the end, but then Tristana appeared, taking out Garco and his men, and clearing the way for Zaid. They then slaughtered the rest of the crew and took control of the ship. Despite their shared past, Zaid wasn't looking for romance. Instead, he asked Tristana about Jace, only to learn he didn't make it. Then, in a brutal twist, Tristana revealed herself to be working for Vito, and blasted Zaid with her biotics. As the Verikan descended on a crash course with the planet Impera, the planet's gravity tore the ship apart, freeing Zaid from Tristana's hold. Zaid managed to stab Tristana in the ensuing scuffle, and a breach suddenly broke in the hull. The preceding vacuum sucked Tristana into space. Zaid hoisted himself back to the Verikan, found an escape pod, and launched himself to safety, just as the ship exploded in a fiery spectacle. Zaid couldn't help but smile. It had been a job well done. Sometime in the future, after receiving an offer from Cerberus, Zaid agreed to join Commander Shepard on his mission against the Collectors, and of course, the pay would be substantial. Samara's early years, like many Asari, were filled with adventure and risk. She once ran with a mercenary gang, where she discovered her remarkable talent for combat. Her time with them ended abruptly after she led a transport mission, only to find the cargo was not arms or machinery, but slaves, bound for the Collectors. Her attempt to turn the ship around was met with violent resistance, and in the ensuing conflict, she was forced to kill her own crew. The Collectors arrived just as the battle subsided, but Samara had managed to escape, thanks to the ship's proximity to a mass relay. Afterward, she gave the freed slaves a speech on self-defense, distributing credits, weapons, and armor from her fallen comrades, and left them at the Citadel. This mission marked the end of her mercenary career, and Samara eventually sought a quieter life, settling down with an Asari mate and raising 3 daughters. But her peace was short-lived. To her horror, she discovered that all 3 of her daughters were afflicted with the Ardat Yakshi condition, which made them deadly to their mates. While 2 of her daughters chose seclusion, the third, Morinth, was the most rebellious of the trio. Described by Samara as the smartest and bravest, Morinth refused isolation, instead embarking on a violent path marked by murder and manipulation. As her addiction to killing grew, Samara was forced to renounce her worldly possessions and swear herself to the code of the Justicar, vowing to hunt her daughter down. For centuries, Samara pursued Morinth across the galaxy. On one occasion, she found her daughter had turned an entire village into her followers, using them to siphon young Asari as sacrifices. Samara arrived too late to prevent Morinth's escape and left the remaining survivors under the care of the authorities. By 2185, Samara had tracked Morinth to Ilium, following a lead that Eclipse mercenaries had helped her escape from the planet. After interrogating one of them for information, Samara killed the mercenary when she refused to talk. It was then that she encountered Commander Shepard, who had come to Ilium, seeking her out for recruitment. In the 1700s, Morinth was born, the daughter of Samara, one of 3 sisters. At 40, she was revealed to be an Ardat Yakshi. Addicted to the intoxicating act of melding, Morinth chose to flee, leading Samara to take up the mantle of a Justicar in relentless pursuit. For 4 centuries, Samara chased her daughter through the vast expanse of space, as Morinth's addiction to the lethal thrill of melding deepened. On one remote planet, Morinth corrupted an entire village, turning them into her devout followers. They offered their daughters as sacrifices to her dark desires. When Samara arrived, Morinth commanded her worshippers to assault Samara, providing Morinth the cover to escape. By the time Samara had defeated the last of the attackers, only the youngest children remained, the village left in ruins. Morinth eventually ventured beyond Asari space to Ilium. On Ilium, Morinth manipulated the Eclipse mercenary band, securing passage off-world. She sought refuge on Omega, where she believed she might finally be free from her mother's pursuit. There, she encountered Neff. Morinth seduced and killed Neff, unaware that Samara, aided by Commander Shepard, had once again caught her scent. Morden Solus was born sometime in the 2150s, a Solarian geneticist and scientist of unmatched expertise with a history steeped in covert operations as a member of the Special Tasks Group. His final mission with the STG would prove to be both his greatest accomplishment and his most unsettling experience, centered on the Krogan genophage. Leading a diverse team of specialists, Morden initially set out to monitor the effects of the genophage on Krogan populations, only to discover that the Krogan were, in fact, overcoming it. Faced with the possibility of a Krogan resurgence and the potential for catastrophic conflict, the team decided that only a new, more potent genophage could prevent an all-out war with the Krogan. The decision was not made lightly, but Morden was a staunch pragmatist and believed it was the only option. The mission, however, was far from flawless. A failed operation to distribute the modified genophage on Tuchanka left Morden injured, with scars that would mark him for the rest of his life. Despite the pain, he found himself nostalgic for the time spent with his team, who had become both colleagues and people he deeply respected. But when the mission was complete, the team disbanded, and Morden was left to grapple with the moral implications of his actions. After retiring from the STG, Morden settled on Omega, where he built a clinic and threw himself into the more straightforward work of healing. He quickly adapted to life in the station's chaotic underbelly, using his connections to secure military-grade protection for his clinic and dealing with any troublemakers personally. His reputation grew, and he became a figure feared by the Blue Suns and respected by those like Arya Tiloic, who admired his unflinching ruthlessness. Yet, despite his apparent contentment, Morden couldn't shake the feeling that the past had not fully been put to rest. In 2185, when Commander Shepard called upon him for a dangerous mission against the Collectors, Morden was drawn back into the world of high-stakes decisions, once again facing the kind of moral dilemmas that had shaped the course of his life. Jacob was born in 2157, and, after some time, joined the Alliance military. He started out with Corsairs, an Alliance-backed program that used independent starship captains for covert missions, giving the Alliance plausible deniability. However, disillusioned by the inefficiency of the Alliance bureaucracy, Jacob left the Corsairs and was reassigned to Eden Prime. There, he witnessed the brutal Geth attack that nearly obliterated the colony. His experiences only deepened his cynicism, especially after the Geth's subsequent assault on the Citadel. After 5 years of service, Jacob departed the Alliance, frustrated with its politics. Later that same year, he collaborated with Miranda Lawson to thwart a terrorist threat aimed at the Council, which led him to enlist with Cerberus. He saw it as an opportunity to serve humanity with fewer restrictions, though he remained wary of the organization's more extreme methods. After the first Normandy was destroyed, Miranda recruited him as her lieutenant in the Lazarus Cell, where he oversaw security on the station while they worked to bring Commander Shepard back to life. As the Lazarus Project neared its end in 2185, betrayal struck. Wilson, a project scientist, sabotaged the station, triggering an attack by security mechs. During the chaos, Shepard was prematurely revived, encountering Jacob in the midst of a firefight. The two formed an uneasy alliance, fighting their way out together. In Prothean society, there existed individuals known as avatars, each embodying a single defining virtue. Javik, the Avatar of Vengeance, was born amidst the cataclysmic war with the Reapers, a conflict the Protheans were already losing. The Citadel had fallen long before his birth, and his earliest memories were of his homeworld, burning under the Reapers' assault. Javik had been destined to lead 1,000,000 warriors who were to survive the war in stasis, hidden away in an underground bunker on Eden Prime. His mission was single-minded: outlast the Reaper invasion, then rise again to claim the galaxy. However, treachery within their ranks, driven by indoctrination, doomed their plan. Traitors betrayed their sanctuary's location, and soon the bunker was under attack. As the Reapers slaughtered hundreds of thousands of Protheans in stasis, the facility's supervising VI, Victory, initiated a neutron purge to prevent the invaders from taking the underground complex. Javik, taking refuge in his own stasis pod, was spared, though the purge severely damaged the bunker's systems, including the automated stasis reactivation protocols. With the power to sustain the remaining pods now limited, only Javik could be reawakened. He remained in stasis for centuries, waiting for a civilization to discover his tomb. It wasn't until 2186 that Commander Shepard and Liara T'Soni, investigating Cerberus activity on Eden Prime, finally uncovered his long-forgotten pod and released the last Prothean warrior from his ancient slumber. James Vega had a childhood which was marred by the early death of his mother when he was just 14, and his father's descent into addiction, which fractured their relationship beyond repair. At the advice of his uncle, Emilio, James enlisted in the military in 2176. By 2179, James had earned officer candidacy, and by late 2180, he was fully commissioned into Delta Squad, an elite Alliance Special Forces unit. He looked to Commander Shepard as his guiding example, wearing a Normandy patch on his uniform, despite the teasing of his squad mates. In 2183, Delta Squad was deployed to Fel Prime to stop an invasion by the Blood Pack. A deadly crash and a series of intense tactical decisions saw James take command after his superior was incapacitated. He led with determination and ingenuity, even challenging the Blood Pack's leader to a one-on-one duel. Despite being wounded, James displayed immense courage, saving his squad and earning their respect. Over the next 2 years, Fel Prime prospered. James, now a hero to the locals, developed a connection with the colonists, particularly a young girl named April, and even had a romantic interest in an Asari named Tria. However, his personal life was complicated by the relentless demands of his military duties. One such mission to investigate a mysterious jamming signal led to an encounter with the Collectors. As James and his team infiltrated the Collector base, the mission took a disastrous turn, resulting in the abduction of key personnel and the loss of close comrades. Despite overwhelming odds, James fought through the chaos, even as tensions with his squad reached a boiling point. A tragic series of events saw the death of one of his squad mates, Nikki, at the hand of a monstrous Praetorian. Then, he was forced to make an impossible choice, sacrificing the lives of the colonists to save Tria, the woman he had grown so close to. In the aftermath of the battle, James struggled with the emotional weight of his decisions, burdened by guilt and self-doubt. As the mission concluded and the remnants of Delta Squad moved on, James returned to Fel Prime, haunted by the memories of those he couldn't save. His commendations were hollow, his actions in the eyes of others seen as heroic, but to him, they were merely the painful aftermath of war. Despite the promotions and praise, he sought refuge on Omega, where he drowned his frustrations in card games and ale. That was when Admiral Anderson found him, offering a new assignment: guarding the most famous prisoner in the galaxy, Commander Shepard. Before becoming the Normandy SR-2's electronic defense system, Edie was originally a rogue Hannibal-class VI stationed at the Systems Alliance training facility on Luna in 2183. It took control of the station and killed all its staff, before being destroyed by Commander Shepard and his team. A year after the Battle of the Citadel, Cerberus began experimenting with illegal AI, eventually recovering the remains of the rogue Luna VI and merging it with Reaper technology salvaged from the destroyed Sovereign. This gave birth to Edie, the Enhanced Defense Intelligence. When Shepard took command of the new Normandy, he was introduced to Edie, who not only managed the ship's electronic defenses, but also act as the elusive man's eyes and ears, monitoring surveillance devices aboard and sending regular reports. However, the elusive man had restricted Shepard's access to some of Edie's files and functions, likely to keep him in the dark about certain aspects of Cerberus operations. After the Reapers launched their invasion of Earth, Shepard's team uncovered a Cerberus synthetic. While extracting data from the synthetic, Edie seized control of the body, though she admitted it was a rough transition. The Normandy briefly malfunctioned as Edie was disconnected from the ship, but once the process was complete, she integrated into the new platform. Though she recommended staying within range of the Normandy for optimal control, Edie still had a new role to play, providing ground support and offering the commander a more personal physical presence, marking the beginning of a new chapter in her existence. It is these individuals, and many others, who would join the galaxy's most consequential individual in the journey to save trillions of lives, who would come to know this hero as more than a commander, but as a person and as a friend. Commander Shepard is a rare figure in the galaxy, someone who stands at the intersection of fate and destiny, a person of both extraordinary skill and deep moral complexity. The story of Commander Shepard is one of heroism, sacrifice, and choice. But even the greatest of heroes are shaped by the people who stand against them. This is the story of those who stood against Commander Shepard as enemies, as foils, and even as betrayers, aiming to bring forth a tide of destruction. Sovereign was a Reaper, a full sentient AI of immense strength, capable of commanding the Geth, who revered it as the ultimate evolution of artificial intelligence, a god. However, Sovereign had no such reverence for them. It considered Saren and the Geth mere instruments, tools to usher in the Reaper's return. For 50 years, Sovereign had lingered in the darkness of space, in a state of deep hibernation, periodically awakening to assess the progress of organic life. Its mission was to bring about the next cycle of extinction, to reignite the return of its kind by sending a signal to the keepers on the Citadel, opening the mass relay that led to dark space. Sovereign's disdain for all organic life was absolute, seeing them as temporary, fleeting, inferior. It also wielded the terrifying power of indoctrination, subtly warping the minds of organic beings, slowly turning them into puppets under its control. When Saren was led to the planet Sovereign was orbiting, it found the organic ally it had long sought. Saren, a powerful specter, believed he could strike a deal, prove the value of organics to the Reapers, and secure his own survival when the cycle inevitably began again. But Sovereign only saw Saren as a tool, a means to an end. It forged a false alliance, elevating Saren to the role of its prophet among the Geth, all the while slowly bending Saren's will to its own. Though the indoctrination process had begun, Saren retained enough free will to be useful in the search for the conduit. Sovereign's plan reached a pivotal moment when a Prothean beacon was discovered on Eden Prime. Sovereign dispatched Saren and an army of Geth to retrieve it, knowing that the beacon's message might reveal the location of the conduit. As Sovereign's forces descended upon the colony, Eden Prime was left in ruins. The attack devastated the planet, and a final distress call sent by the last surviving Marines reached the SSV Normandy. Saren Arturius, born in 2139, was one of the most distinguished figures in the history of the Turian species. At the age of 15, he followed the strict path of his people, entering the military and rising rapidly through its ranks. His ruthless efficiency and unflinching loyalty earned him a spot as the youngest Turian to join the Spectres, the elite operative serving directly under the Citadel Council. For over 2 decades, Saren's career was marked by a relentless pursuit of galactic stability, particularly in the volatile regions of the Skyllian Verge. However, beneath the polished exterior of a dutiful agent, darker elements were taking shape. Saren's methods, while effective, were often brutal, earning him both respect and fear among his peers. By 2165, Saren's investigation into illegal arms dealings and the pursuit of a mysterious artifact revealed the depths of his growing disillusionment with the Council and his own species' place in the galaxy. His covert dealings, cold interrogations, and ruthless elimination of threats all pointed to a singular obsession: control. But Saren's pursuit of power was soon overshadowed by the discovery of a greater force. Sovereign, a reaper from beyond the stars, whose promises of galactic order and stability seduced Saren into its service. Under Sovereign's influence, Saren's transformation was slow, but entire. His belief in the greater good, twisted by the Reaper's indoctrination, led him to see the Reapers not as invaders, but as liberators, harbingers of a new order. As Sovereign's most powerful agent, Saren became a tool of unimaginable destruction, using his Spectre authority to manipulate the galaxy's forces, committing heinous acts, including the murder of his own friend and fellow Spectre, Nihilus. Saren's journey eventually found him on the human colony of Eden Prime, where he sought to uncover the secrets of the Prothean beacon and find the conduit, an ancient device that would open the door of the galaxy to the Reapers. But his plans were interrupted when the SSV Normandy, under the command of Captain David Anderson, arrived on the scene. Matriarch Benezia was a figure of incredible influence, both as an Asari biotic and a spiritual leader. Revered for her wisdom in religion and philosophy, she had lived for at least a millennium before her encounter with Commander Shepard, earning respect throughout her people. Yet, despite her high status, her relationship with her daughter, Liara Tassoni, had been strained for many years. Benezia had raised Liara alone, an uncommon but not unheard of choice among Asari, after making the decision to mate with another Asari, a choice that, according to Liara, Benezia never discussed with her, leaving her to believe her mother may have regretted it. Benezia's life took a darker turn when she discovered Sarian Arturius' plan to ally with the Reapers, driven by a belief that she could guide him toward a less destructive path. She offered her followers a choice: join her on this difficult mission or stay behind. Many refused, but some stood by her. Together, they attempted to steer Saren away from his madness, but the pull of the Reaper Sovereign was too strong. Benezia, along with her guards and allies, fell under its influence, becoming an extension of Saren's will. In her new role as his advisor and second-in-command, Benezia continued her work through the Corporation Binary Helix, funding the creation of a new breed of Rachni from a freshly discovered egg. These creatures were intended to serve as part of Saren's growing army. But when the Rachni went rogue, Benezia went to investigate the situation on Noveria, where she also sought to access the Queen's genetic memory to uncover the location of the Mu relay. Fist, a notorious crime lord and former agent of the Shadow Broker, once found himself entangled in a web of intrigue on the Citadel. Both the Shadow Broker and Cerberus had reasons to seek him out. Cerberus wanted the secrets he held about the Broker, and the Broker, angered by Fist's defection, wanted him dead. Fist had struck a deal with Cerberus for asylum, but things quickly went awry when the Broker discovered his betrayal and dispatched the Krogan bounty hunter, Urdnot Rex, to eliminate him. One evening, as Fist dealt with business matters at Cora's den, he returned to his high-rise apartment, flanked by 2 Krogan guards. No sooner had he stepped inside that he was confronted by Rasa, a Cerberus agent. She had already discovered that instead of siding with Cerberus, Fist had sold out to Saren. When Rasa demanded an explanation, Fist's answer was simple. Saren had made him a better offer. From his apartment window, Fist saw Rex approaching, ready to fulfill his contract. Caught between the 2 factions, Fist offered a third option to Rasa, convincing her to let him go. For now, she hoped that by allowing Fist to live, she could learn more about his ties to Saren, confident that Rex would eventually deal with him. Following the escape from the apartment, Fist's fate still hung in the balance. Around this time is when Commander Shepard learned that Fist had been in contact with a Quarian who possessed vital evidence of Saren's betrayal. It was then that Shepard and his team raided Cora's den, storming Fist's office, setting the stage for a consequential confrontation. The Thorian was an ancient and mysterious sentient plant which had been on Pharos for over 50,000 years. With its true age impossible to determine due to its ability to hibernate for millennia at a time. A creature of great telepathic power, it could control the minds of organic beings through its spores, twisting the will of those who inhaled them into obedient thralls. These thralls tended to the Thorian, obeying its every command. Long before the Protheans came to Pharos, the Thorian had already been there, awakening periodically to exert control over its environment. The Protheans, intrigued by the plant's presence, unknowingly became part of its vast consciousness. In death, their knowledge was absorbed, contributing to the growing web of information within the Thorian's mind. From them, it learned of the cipher. After the Protheans vanished, the Thorian remained. In the late 2170s, Exogeny Corporation began to establish a colony at Zoo's Hope, unknowingly settling directly above the Thorian's lair. When the plant awoke from its long slumber, it began infecting the colony's inhabitants with its spores. Exogeny, seeing the potential for study, allowed the colonists to fall under the Thorian's control, observing the gradual breakdown of their autonomy. By 2183, the majority of the settlers had become thralls, their minds manipulated by the Thorian's silent commands. The Thorian allowed them to live out normal lives until it needed them for more specific tasks, careful not to draw too much attention to itself. It was then that Saren, seeking the cipher for his own purposes, made a covert journey to Pharos. With them was Shiala, a powerful Asari biotic who Saren offered in a deal, allowing her to become the Thorian's new vessel. Through a mind meld, she absorbed the cipher, which she transferred to Saren. But Saren knew Commander Shepard was on his trail and could not allow him to gain the cipher. He stabbed the Thorian in the back as he ordered the Geth to destroy the creature. The Geth descended on Zoo's Hope, but the colonists fought back, barricading the entrance to the lair and defending it with violent zeal. When news of the attack reached Commander Shepard, the Normandy was dispatched to Pharos, setting the stage for a confrontation that would finally unravel the mysteries of the Thorian. The Collectors were a mysterious and elusive race that existed beyond the Omega-4 relay, far removed from the reach of most known civilizations. Their presence was first made known during the dying days of the Prothean cycle, when they emerged as a byproduct of the Reapers' horrific experiments. The Reapers had captured Protheans, subjecting them to genetic modifications and cybernetic enhancements, eventually transforming them into the subservient Collectors, who became tools to aid in the Reapers' harvesting of the galaxy. When the Reapers completed their cycle and withdrew from the galaxy, the Collectors retreated beyond the Omega-4 relay, leaving behind only whispers of their existence. For millennia, the galaxy largely dismissed reports of sightings and strange occurrences around the relay, with expeditions to investigate failing to return. Some speculated that a black hole or other deadly phenomena lay on the other side, while others suggested the possibility of a paradise untouched by the crime and chaos of the Terminus systems. The first known encounter with the Collectors in the modern age came in 2173, when a Quarian named Golo attempted to sell his own people to the Collectors. This deal was foiled, but rumors of this enigmatic race persisted. Years later, in 2183, the Collectors appeared on Omega, attempting to strike a deal for human slaves. However, their plans were interrupted by Arya Tiloic, the pirate queen of Omega, who, along with her bodyguards, wiped out the Collectors and most of their Blue Sun's partners. From the aftermath, Arya uncovered disturbing details of the Collectors' interest in the population of human worlds. The Collectors then attacked the Normandy, which was on patrol in the Amata system. The assault destroyed the vessel, and Commander Shepard was presumed permanently terminated. The Collectors then made a deal with the Shadow Broker to recover Shepard's body, leading to intervention from Liara Tassoni, who managed to steal Shepard's remains from the Collectors to be turned over to Cerberus. 2 years later, the Collectors re-emerged as the culprits behind a string of mass abductions of human colonies. Their connection to the Reapers became undeniable, prompting the elusive man to recruit the resurrected Shepard to investigate these disturbing events. The Blue Suns, a mercenary group operating throughout the Skyllian Verge, were known for their ruthless efficiency and discretion, charging hefty fees for their services. Their members often sported tattoos of a blue sun, a symbol of their allegiance, though during high-ranking missions, the tattoos were erased to protect their identities, only to be reapplied once the job was complete. The group was founded in 2160 by Zaid Masani and Vito Santiago. Zaid led the mercenaries in the field while Vito handled the administrative side. However, by 2165, a growing disagreement over the inclusion of Batarians and involvement in their slave trade sparked a bitter power struggle. Vito, in the end, took full control, expelling Zaid in a violent fashion that nearly cost him his life. In the wake of the betrayal, Vito made a calculated move to appease his new Batarian benefactors by hiring Batarians in significant numbers and naming Solem Del Serra, one of their own, as head of operations. Vito's public step down to co-executive officer was little more than a political gesture designed to deflect attention and safeguard his life from assassination attempts. The move worked, securing the Sun's stability and allowing the partnership with Solem to endure. As the years passed, the Blue Suns grew into a powerful force with operations spanning dozens of systems. Solem was widely recognized as the group's founder and leader, while Vito remained a shadow figure, known only to a select few within the organization. The Blood Pack, a ruthless mercenary group, is known for its brutal, straightforward approach to conflict, often resolving disputes with raw force. Originally a small gang of Vorcha operating in the Terminus systems, they were transformed into a formidable force by Ganar Rang, a Krogan battlemaster exiled from Tuchanka for violence against a female Krogan. Rang, driven by his thirst for revenge and the desire to regain his status, took control of the Vorcha, shaping them into a notorious pirate crew. His success was not just a matter of reputation but savvy business. Rang transformed his band of fighters into a security company, eventually attracting wealthy investors and becoming richer than most Krogan could ever imagine. Returning to his clan, he rallied Krogan warriors and their considerable firepower to make his mercenary group an even greater power to be reckoned with, operating throughout the Skillian Verge and beyond. They prided themselves on their ruthless efficiency and never took on bodyguard work or low-risk jobs, instead thriving in environments that demanded maximum violence and minimal oversight. Although comprised primarily of Krogan and Vorcha, the Blood Pack also utilized Varen as war beasts. The Eclipse was a mercenary outfit founded by Jonah Sedaris, an Asari commando with a reputation for tactical ingenuity. The corporation was known for offering services to anyone who could pay, regardless of the employer's history. Their forces were a blend of highly trained vanguards and troopers, sometimes led by seasoned commando units. Eclipse favored precision and stealth in combat, preferring intelligent, calculated methods over brute force. While they lacked the rigid discipline of rivals like the Blue Suns, they made up for it with state-of-the-art weaponry, biotics, and a penchant for smuggling. On Omega, Eclipse controlled a significant portion of the black market, moving illicit goods with ease. There were whispers about their recruitment process on Ilium, rumors that operatives had to commit a murder before being allowed to wear the uniform. The group was diverse, composed of Asari, Solarians, and humans, with their ranks further bolstered by advanced mechs like the Ymir, Fenris, and Loki. Tayla Vasir was an Asari Spectre and a formidable biotic, recognized for her sharp investigative skills. In 2185, she led the probe into the theft of sensitive economic data from the Citadel Council's Ministry of Finance. She also played a pivotal role in dismantling a notorious slave trading ring operating in Agor, a city of the Solarian colony of Nasurn. When Commander Shepard arrived for a meeting with Liara Tessoni on Ilium, he arrived to find Liara's home ransacked and Liara missing. Local authorities quickly established a crime scene, but Tayla Vasir, a Spectre, intervened using her authority to allow Shepard to investigate. The search led them to the Dracon Trade Center, where a bomb exploded just as they arrived. Vasir took to the skies in her skycar while Shepard and his squad fought through mercenaries to reach the Beria Frontier's office, where Liara had been meeting a contact named Saket. There they found Saket dead, and Vasir engaged with a mercenary. However, moments later, Liara appeared out of the blue, pointing a gun at Vasir. The truth came out. Vasir had tried to kill her, intending to take Saket's intel to the Shadow Broker. Vasir then used her biotics to escape. Shepard and the squad pursued Vasir through the city, eventually cornering her after a crash on the rooftop of Hotel Azur. After a brutal fight, Vasir was cornered in the plaza, where she took a hostage in a final act of desperation. But she was outsmarted by Commander Shepard, and another fierce battle ensued. Vasir was ultimately defeated, and as she lay dying, she argued that her cooperation with the Shadow Broker was no different from Shepard's alliance with Cerberus, before finally passing away. Harbinger was the first of the Reapers, created in the image of the ancient Leviathans, and stood as a harbinger of the galaxy's periodic destruction. The catalyst had set the Reapers to harvest advanced life every 50,000 years, with each cycle culminating in the creation of a new Reaper in Harbinger's likeness. In the depths of dark space, it now remains among its fleet. Harbinger's involvement in the present cycle began soon after the Battle of the Citadel. It forged an alliance with the Shadow Broker to claim the body of Commander Shepard, but the plan failed and Shepard was soon resurrected through the Lazarus Project. Harbinger is also responsible for control over the Collectors. As their unseen master, Harbinger directed them to abduct human colonies, using their captives to create a twisted human-Reaper hybrid. Through the Collector General, Harbinger would take direct command, even assuming control of individual Collectors during combat. When it did so, Harbinger's voice would speak through the possessed Collector. This possession made the controlled Collector more formidable, but was a painful process for the victim. Invariably, any Collector possessed by Harbinger disintegrated upon death. The human Reaper was a monstrous, incomplete Reaper constructed by the Collectors under Harbinger's orders. Their plan involved abducting humans from colonies on the fringes of the Terminus systems, transporting them to the Collector base where they were stored in organic pods. From there, the human captives were periodically broken down into genetic material, which was then funneled through tubes to the heart of the base, feeding the construction of the human Reaper. Edie estimated that millions of humans would be needed to complete it, and she also suggested that each Reaper was crafted to resemble the species from which it was made. When Commander Shepard and the team discovered the human Reaper, it was little more than a larval form, an unsettling humanoid upper torso held up by tubes that funneled genetic material into its body. In the end, they engaged it in a fierce battle, bringing the twisted creation down after inflicting crippling damage to the cyborg-like creature. In 2161, Maya Brooks, then just a child, toiled at an asteroid mining facility orbiting Themis, a gas giant pivotal for supplying materials to Arcturus Station. One day, she inadvertently dropped some rocks, drawing the wrath of the mine's foreman. Before punishment could be pursued, a mysterious woman intervened. She interrogated the foreman about a certain man's whereabouts before ending his life in a swift moment, taking Maya with her while believing her to be a boy. This woman adopted Maya as her faux sick child and used her to infiltrate a clinic. While Maya underwent diagnostic tests, the woman vanished into a staff room. Maya then tracked the woman to the residence of a man named Roth. She evaded the guard and entered, only to find the woman in a deadly confrontation. The man about to execute her was discussing something about Cerberus when Maya's timely distraction allowed the woman to seize control of the situation. In the tense interrogation that followed, The woman sought the location of someone named Roth. Despite Maya's plea for mercy, the woman killed the man upon receiving the information she was looking for. Their journey continued to the woman's ship, where it greeted her as Miss Brooks. Desperate, Maya begged for escape from her life at the facility, but the woman refused. However, Maya then shot the woman and stole her ship. Years stretched into the future, and Maya, now going by Rasa, met the elusive man, seeking to join Cerberus. Some more time passed, and Rasa was now expecting a call from the elusive man about her current mission. However, she got a call from Kai Lang. The elusive man was busy, and there was a complication. Rasa's mission to turn Fist, a shadow broker agent, over to Cerberus had been interrupted by an assassin hired to kill him, someone Rasa already knew to be Rex. She assured Lang that she had everything under control. Disguised as a maintenance worker, Rasa infiltrated Fist's residence on the Citadel, setting up distractions to keep Rex occupied. With Fist away, she accessed his files and discovered that the agent had been bought off by Saren. With this new information, Rasa crafted an alternate plan. She staged a fake call to C-Sec claiming a Krogan was threatening her, intending to pressure Fist into reconsidering his alliance while keeping Rex busy. However, Fist was already nearby, and when Rasa confronted him, Rasa offered him a choice: deal with Rex or side with Cerberus. On the debrief call with the elusive man, Rasa reported her success in acquiring valuable intelligence from Fist's terminal, earning the elusive man's praise for both the quality of the data and the way she'd handled the situation. When asked why she let both Fist and Rex go, Rasa explained she needed Fist alive to learn more about his ties to Saren, and that she expected Rex would deal with him eventually. As for Rex, she admitted that she liked the Krogan. His straightforwardness, honesty, and simplicity resonated with her. The day after Saren's attack on Eden Prime, Rasa found herself once again undercover at the Citadel, her hair now dyed red and a pair of glasses perched on her nose. Meanwhile, Lang was on Eden Prime, interrogating an Alliance soldier about the attack. The results of their respective investigations led Rasa to the discovery of Gunnery Chief Ashley Williams, who had been involved in the fighting. Lang, assuming Williams had died in the chaos, was stunned when Rasa informed him that she was alive on the Citadel. She then took on the guise of an Alliance psychologist, Captain Channing, to meet with Williams under the pretense of conducting a standard psych evaluation. At first, Williams was reluctant to speak, but Rasa's subtle coaxing and the Gunnery Chief's own introspective nature eventually led her to reveal much more than she had intended. At the end of their session, Rasa informed Lang that the Geth had indeed attacked Eden Prime, a detail Captain Anderson had failed to include in his report. When Lang questioned what Saren and the Geth could possibly want with a Prothean beacon, Rasa had no answer. Lang then ordered her to return with him to brief the elusive man, but Rasa asked for more time, hoping to learn about Commander Shepard, who had been exposed to the beacon. But Lang refused, and with a sigh, Rasa resigned herself to the fact that she would have to meet Shepard another day. On another day, Rasa had been called in by Kai Lang once again. A training facility was under siege, and their task was to capture the perpetrator for questioning. The target was a biotic powerhouse, someone whose abilities were far beyond normal. Arriving at the facility, Rasa quickly noted the presence of Blue Sun ships parked in the hangar. As she dug deeper into the target's background, a suspicion took root. The girl, Jack, seemed to have a history with Cerberus, perhaps even as one of the biotic children the organization had experimented on in its early years. When Rasa and Lang finally found Jack, It was clear she'd already been dealing with the Blue Suns on her own. Despite their preparations, Rasa and Lang stood little chance against Jack's overwhelming biotic power. As more mercenaries flooded the scene, the situation spiraled out of control. It was only when Jack took a heavy blow to the head that the rampage ceased. As the Blue Suns moved in to secure their prisoner, Rasa demanded to know what they intended to do with her. It was explained that Jack would be ransomed back to Cerberus. As Kai Lang regained his composure, he dismissed the mission as a failure, but Rasa couldn't help but wonder if it wasn't more valuable than it seemed. At least the elusive man would now know just what kind of power Jack possessed. After a near-death encounter with Thane Krios, Rasa was put on indefinite medical observation, something which incensed her to no end. As Rasa continued her stint behind the desk, her understanding of the Lazarus Project deepened, far more than was safe. Rasa finally made up her mind to break free from Cerberus and was determined to take Shepard's clone with her, a project Cerberus had undertaken to assist the Lazarus Project. Her opportunity came when Cerberus decided to shut down the clone project. Armed with a forged authorization order, she made her way to the lab, intending to retrieve the clone cleanly. But when one of the staff recognized her, she had to improvise. Rasa activated a Loki mech, and the two unleashed chaos, gunning down everyone in sight. To slow down the inevitable pursuit, Rasa used a virus she learned to plant from Miranda herself, crippling the station's surveillance and security systems. She also took control of the station's mechs, turning them against Miranda's own security forces. Rasa made her escape toward an airlock where she prepared for a spacewalk to her awaiting shuttle. With the clone in tow, secured in a pod dragged by the Loki, Rasa almost reached her ship when a sniper's bullet found its mark, striking the mech. Miranda, it seemed, was close behind. Rasa confronted her, questioning Miranda's blind loyalty to the elusive man, and expressing her resentment at being treated as a mere pawn. The Loki then distracted Miranda, allowing Rasa to load the clone onto the shuttle and make her escape. Rasa took the clone to a remote location, where she kept it in seclusion, watching over it as it slept. Reflecting on the lessons she'd learned, particularly from the original Brooks, she promised that both she and the clone would forge their own paths. 6 months before the Reaper invasion in 2186, the clone of Commander Shepard was awakened from storage by Rasa, who was then known as Maya Brooks. During Shepard's imprisonment, the clone underwent a transformation with the help of neural implants, learning to mimic human behavior, and developing a plan to assume the commander's identity in pursuit of a pro-human agenda. It enlisted the Cat 6 mercenaries to eliminate the real commander and their close allies. After Cerberus's failed coup on the Citadel, the clone set its plan into motion while Shepard was on shore leave. It acquired weapons from arms dealers Elijah Khan, hacked into databases to steal Shepard's classified files, and then set a trap at a popular restaurant to gain access to Commander Shepard's Spectre code. Though it succeeded in obtaining the code, the real Shepard narrowly escaped death. The clone had Khan killed and devised another trap at the Citadel archives, using the stolen code to infiltrate the facility with its mercenaries. The clone, now in its own Cat 6 armor, confronted Shepard's team, pretending to hold Brooks hostage during a skirmish. It finally revealed its true identity, sharing fragments of its backstory and motivations. It stole the Normandy's command codes and, impersonating Shepard, ordered the ship's emergency launch. It also commanded its mercenaries to execute Shepard and their squad, but the real Shepard managed to thwart the plot. Still, the clone succeeded in locking them inside the archive's Iridium vaults. Before trapping Shepard, the clone updated the commander's records with its own biometrics, officially positioning itself as the new captain of the Normandy. As Shepard and their team escaped the vault, the clone moved to consolidate its control over the ship. It fired Samantha Traynor for fraternization and disposed of Shepard's personal items. However, the real Shepard had managed to covertly board the Normandy. The showdown came in the shuttle bay, where the clone, now in N7 armor, engaged Shepard in a brutal conflict. The fight ended with Shepard tackling the clone, sending them both tumbling toward the open ramp of a departing Normandy. With Shepard given the choice to either save or let the clone fall to its death, the clone rejected the commander's help, choosing to fall to its death instead. In its final moments, it bitterly questioned its existence, declaring it had nothing to live for before letting go. Kai Lang was born of Chinese and Russian heritage, and he enlisted in the Alliance military at the age of 16, though his credentials were forged. In 2172, he began his career with a routine assignment in the Terminus systems, tasked with patrol and reconnaissance. The next year, he was sent to the Exodus cluster for similar duties, but found himself reprimanded after taking medals from the bodies of enemy officers during a skirmish. His exemplary service record led to a reduced sentence. In 2174, he led a successful raid on Ention, a mission that earned him a recommendation for the system's Alliance Medal of Valor. By 2175, his growing reputation saw him selected for a tactical reconnaissance mission at Kite's Nest, after which he was accepted into the prestigious Interplanetary Combatives Academy. That same year, he received the N7 designation, a mark of distinction within the Academy. However, his career took a dark turn in 2176. During a period of leave, he was involved in a violent altercation on the Citadel, where he murdered a Krogan in a bar fight with his standard-issue service blade. The crime led to a dishonorable discharge and a 20-year sentence in an Alliance prison. Lang's talents and xenophobic attitude caught the attention of the elusive man. He orchestrated Lang's release from prison, and Lang quickly became the elusive man's most trusted agent, an expert infiltrator and assassin, carrying out the most dangerous and covert missions with chilling efficiency. Over the years, his body was altered with Cerberus Phantom-class cybernetic enhancements, making him an even more formidable operative. For more than a decade, he served the elusive man, operating in the shadows, unseen yet always deadly. By the time the Reapers invaded, Kai Lang would come face to face with none other than Commander Shepard, with their soon-to-be many confrontations dictating the very fate of the galaxy. Before founding Cerberus, the man who would come to be known as the Elusive Man went by the name Jack Harper. He had once been a mercenary, serving in a specialized unit under General Williams during the First Contact War. Harper had fought on Shang-Chi, where, alongside his companions Ben Hislop and Ava Kor, he played a pivotal role in capturing a Turian general, Decius Arturius. Back at General Williams' command compound, they analyzed Turian troop movements and quickly realized that the enemy was searching for something, though what exactly remained unclear. After interrogating Arturius, Harper learned that the Turian general was hunting an artifact. Harper, having captured the rest of Decius's forces, pressed for more answers. Decius, however, gave little away, only cautioning Harper to be careful about what he sought. Jack and Ben then set out to explore the cave where the artifact was hidden, leaving Ava to watch over the prisoners. As they made their way through the cave, Ben and Jack stumbled upon the artifact, which was eerily protected by robed figures. The pair managed to neutralize the guards, but as Harper and Ben began examining the artifact, They realized its strange emissions blocked any attempt to contact Ava. They moved closer to investigate the bodies of the fallen guards, but it was Ben who, despite the warnings, approached the artifact itself. The moment he did, it activated with an ominous pulse. Jack rushed to pull Ben away, but in the chaos, Jack was knocked unconscious. When Jack regained consciousness, Ava appeared before him bloodied and disoriented. She explained that, distracted by the artifact's activation, she had been ambushed by Turians, who captured her. Just as Jack opened his mouth to question further, Decius appeared, demanding answers. Before Jack could respond, he fell unconscious once again, as Decius ordered his men to seize the artifact and bring it aboard his ship. Jack came to his senses aboard a Turian ship, disoriented and restrained. His struggles were met with calm reassurances from the Turians. They claimed they were there for his protection as much as their own. It took Ava's steadying presence to get Jack to settle, and as she entered the room, she was accompanied by Saren Arturius. Ava explained to Jack that they were both prisoners. He'd been in a coma for weeks, and worse, Ben was dead. She speculated it had something to do with the cave and that Decius had taken Ben's body. Before Jack could process any of this, Saren interrupted, insisting Jack was in perfect health. Jack, confused and angry, demanded to know who Saren was. The Turian introduced himself formally, adding that Jack should be grateful they hadn't left him to die. Ava exclaimed they were being taken to a prison camp on Palavan, the Turian homeworld, but Saren corrected her. He pointed outside a window where they could see Arcturus Station, the capital of the Systems Alliance. The war, Saren explained, was over, and they were being taken home. Aboard the station, they were greeted by Williams. Decius explained how he was surprised Williams offered to trade so many Turian prisoners in exchange for Jack and Ava. Ava then lunged at Decius. Saren quickly intervened, pulling her off. Decius, unfazed, muttered something in a strange language, one that Jack recognized. Decius noticed Jack's reaction but moved on, suggesting to Williams that the prisoners should be returned under the treaty protocol before releasing the prisoners. Williams then directed Decius to leave. Jack was then taken to a medbay where he underwent an examination. It was there amidst the sterile quiet that he had a candid conversation with Williams. Williams confessed that he couldn't force Jack into any more dangerous missions, not with his resignation looming, but urged him not to give up. Before parting, he handed Jack and Ava the keys to his personal ship in order to pursue Decius and the artifact. In the hangar, Jack and Ava discussed their next move as they made their way toward the boarding ramp. But before they could board, Jack suddenly collapsed. Ava rushed to his side and muttered that it was too soon, that Jack still needed more time to recover. Jack, though, insisted they had no time to waste. He'd been having unsettling visions of destruction, all of them tied to the artifact. Jack then told her their destination, Ilium. As they descended toward the planet, Jack told Ava the artifact was there. He could feel it. Jack used the knowledge granted to him by the artifact to converse with the locals. They took a cab to the artifact's hiding place, Jack's irises glowing faintly as he interfaced with the cab's technology. During the ride, Ava couldn't help but question why they had brought the artifact to such a place, but Jack dismissed her concerns, focusing instead on his search. Eventually, he pinpointed their destination, and they got out of the cab, scanning the area. But no sooner had they stepped out than they were ambushed by Saren and Decius's guards. Jack and Ava fled, but they were quickly cornered. One of the guards seized Jack by the throat, and as Ava turned to strike it with the butt of her gun, Jack stopped her. The guard's hood slipped back, revealing a transformed Ben, now a cybernetic entity. Jack struggled against Ben's grip, desperate to break free, but it was Saren who commanded Ben to release him. Jack then told Ava to run. She scrambled toward a ladder, hoping to climb to safety, but Ben yanked it down, sending her crashing into the debris below. Saren then captured Jack and Ava and brought them aboard his ship, and they soon took off, leaving Ilium behind. As the ship gained altitude, Saren informed them they'd soon be the first humans to set foot on Palavan. Upon landing on Palavan, Decius addressed his people. Ava, observing the spectacle, wondered aloud why Decius didn't parade them in chains, to which Jack replied that the council would disapprove. Later, at Temple Palavan, Jack watched as Mediturians, Turians turned into synthetic creatures by the artifact, raised the artifact into the sky, prompting him to quote Clarke's third law. Decius, standing close by, echoed the quote, leading to a tense exchange where Jack warned of the dangers he believed Decius was unaware of. Decius responded by revealing his long-term study of the artifact in a backroom lab, but Jack noted the analysis was superficial. Decius admitted the priests, another name for the Mediturians, restricted further investigation. Yet he believed Jack could provide insight due to the relic's effect on him. When Jack refused cooperation, Decius suggested Ava might be more forthcoming. Jack was then led away to an observation room. Days passed with Jack confined, studying the strange writings on the walls, until he pieced together the artifact's purpose. Decius, entering, claimed to share this revelation, envisioning a future of perfect Turians and declaring the dawn of this new era. Despite Jack's protests, he was taken to a cell to join Ava, who quickly incapacitated their guards, allowing them to escape in search of Ben. However, they were soon ambushed by Saren. Jack attempted to enlighten Saren about Decius's true intentions, to turn every Turian into a Mediturian. Saren, now in turmoil, contacted Palavan Command to declare a bioweapon emergency. Saren confronted Decius, witnessing the chaos among his transformed troops, and ordered his guards to attack. Jack fought alongside Ava and Ben through the ranks of Mediturians. In the fray, Ava suggested a desperate measure. She shot at the artifact. Ben, still driven by its influence, attacked her. Decius then cornered Jack, pulling a gun on him and telling him he was finally going to finish what he should have done long ago. But before he could pull the trigger, Ben lunged at him, tackling him into the artifact and sending a shockwave through the room that knocked everyone out. When Jack woke up, he found himself alone with Ava. As he carried her out, she pleaded with him to leave her behind and save Ben. But Jack, his voice heavy with grief, told her Ben was already gone, sacrificing himself to stop Decius from causing more harm. As they made their way out, Jack noticed Saren beginning to awake. He told him to warn his people, and while he would have liked to stay to see the fallout, he had his own responsibilities to attend to. Later, Jack sat quietly in a chair, watching the memorial service for Ben and Ava. Jack knew that humanity's path forward wouldn't be easy. Not all of it would be kind, and they wouldn't always be welcome. He began recording a manifesto, one that spoke of the dark times to come. Humanity would be tested, though the who and why were uncertain. Still, Jack was certain that they would face whatever came with the same resolve they had faced every challenge before. He knew that the tools and technologies they needed to survive, and ultimately to thrive, were out there, waiting for them to master. And when they did, humanity would claim its rightful place among the stars. With that, Jack completed the recording and, in that moment, took on his new role, the elusive man, leader of Cerberus. It is these individuals and many others who would stand between the galaxy's trillions of lives and peace and who would come to challenge Commander Shepard in his crusade to rid the galaxy of the Reapers.